Chapter 102. Wang Daoyuan took a deep breath and felt the fragrance permeate into his internal organs. His whole body had an indescribable feeling of carefreeness. He closed his eyes and carefully sensed it. He felt that his spirit had increased 100 times and even the power of his divine sense had increased a little. Just by smelling it, the effect was stronger than meditating in the jade butterfly orchid. This fragrance not only had an effect on the soul but also on the body. A rank 1 spirit item definitely did not have such a strong effect. The stall owner was also a smart person. In order not to attract attention, he quickly closed the jade box and smiled at Wang Daoyuan. "Is this thing worthy of Daoyu's discerning eyes?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "Rank 2 low-grade spirit tea. It can improve the cultivation of the divine sense and also has some effect on the body. But I am not sure what effect it has. If this spirit tea was in the clear glass market, people would rush to buy it for 500 spirit stones per tael. In the Green Willow State, 100 spirit stones per tael. What do you think, Daoyu?" This was not like cinnabar ore, which was almost useless in the Green Willow State. It was the same everywhere. Therefore he did not dare to lower the price too much. When the stall owner heard this price, he smiled and said, "Daoyu, this price is a bit low. This is a rank 2 spirit tea. And it is a specialty of the Green Willow State. You can't find it anywhere else." A specialty of the Green Willow State? Wang Daoyuan was a little puzzled. Could it be the Hidden Cloud Tea? The Hidden Cloud Tea was a specialty of the Hidden Cloud Continent of the 100 Rivers Lake. The Hidden Cloud Continent was also an island of the 100 Rivers Lake. Unlike the Green Willow State, the Hidden Cloud Continent was not a sand island but a small mountain range. In the early years, the Hidden Cloud Tea was spread all over the Hidden Cloud Continent. Although its effect was very strong, it was not rare. But later on, excessive harvesting caused the Hidden Cloud Tea to become extremely rare. There were only some left in the depths of the Hidden Cloud Continent. The Hidden Cloud Continent was shrouded in clouds and mist. If a chi refining cultivator went in, even their divine sense would not be able to see beyond 10 steps. Although the Hidden Cloud Continent only had rank 2 high-grade spirit veins, it was unlikely to breed rank 3 monsters. But some rank 2 monsters hid in the clouds and waited for an opportunity to sneak attack cultivators. Even Zifu realm cultivators could be attacked. Thus, the depths of the Hidden Cloud Continent could be considered a forbidden area of the 100 Rivers Lake. Every year on the 9th day of the 9th month, the clouds would become very thin. Only now did people dare to go deep into the Hidden Cloud Continent to pick the Hidden Cloud Tea. However, a rank 2 spirit plant was located in the depths of the Hidden Cloud Continent. How could there not be any demonic beasts eyeing it? Most of the rogue cultivators who went to pick tea also became food for the demonic beast. The amount of Hidden Cloud Tea that was brought out every year was no more than 1 caddy. There were also people who wanted to cultivate Hidden Cloud Tea outside the Hidden Cloud Continent, but without exception they all failed. Because the production was extremely low, most of it fell into the hands of the few foundation establishment cultivators of the Green Willow State. Very few people in the outside world knew about the Hidden Cloud Tea. Wang Daoyuan also learned about it from Zhao Baoguo's memory. However, Zhao Baoguo had only heard of it and had never seen it. Therefore he did not immediately recognize the Hidden Cloud Tea. It was only when the stall owner said that it was a specialty of the Green Willow Island that he realized that it might be the Hidden Cloud Tea. The stall owner replied with a proud face, "It is the Hidden Cloud Tea." Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "That was rude of me. If it was the Hidden Cloud Tea, even if it was 500 spirit stones per tael, it would still be sold cheaply. As far as I know, this Hidden Cloud Tea is not something that ordinary people can get their hands on. I am ashamed that I have never seen this tea." The stall owner also understood the meaning of his words. He was doubting the authenticity of the Hidden Cloud Tea. He was not angry but smiled and said, "Daoyu's worries are understandable. However, my Hidden Cloud Tea is indeed real." Wang Daoyuan became interested. "So, Daoyu found a tea tree in the periphery of the Hidden Cloud Continent?" The stall owner waved his hand and said, "Daoyu overestimate me. I don't have that ability. Someone found a tea tree in the periphery of the Hidden Cloud Continent and sold it to me. Since Daoyu knows the name of the Hidden Cloud Tea, you should also know the characteristics of the Hidden Cloud Tea. You only need to use your spiritual sense to find out." Because the Hidden Cloud Tea grew in the clouds of the Hidden Cloud Continent, it also had a little effect of interfering with spiritual sense. When using spiritual sense to explore, the tea leaves would appear and disappear, which could not be imitated. Wang Daoyuan used his spiritual sense to explore the jade box. Sure enough, the tea leaves had some interference with the power of spiritual sense. Under the detection of spiritual sense, the tea leaves would appear and disappear. Unfortunately, the tea leaves had been processed and were not alive. If they were alive, he could try to insert them into the space of the spirit bead. After processing, the value of the hidden cloud tea would not be great. He nodded and said, "Dao Yu is not lying. This is indeed hidden cloud tea. But with so many tea leaves, it is only enough to make 2 or 3 cups. It is not much use to buy it." The stall owner continued to smile and said, "My friend who picked the hidden cloud tea is planning to pick it again after a while. If Dao Yu is interested, I can introduce you to him. When that friend picks the tea again, Dao Yu can also go with him." Wang Daoyuan thought for a while and felt that he could go. Even if he could not pick the hidden cloud tea, he could collect some spiritual objects that were not in the space. As for the possibility that someone might cheat him, he really did not care. He had not been in the oasis for long and did not show much wealth, so there would not be any foundation establishment stage cultivators eyeing him. Even if someone cheated him, at most it would be a peak chi refining stage cultivator. With his current strength, he could fight against an ordinary peak chi refining stage cultivator with only the 5 dragon soul chasing whip. Moreover, he could also use the mixed origin soul chasing whip. Of course, he could not use all 5 elements at once. He could only use 5 whips. Basically, no one below the foundation establishment stage could withstand it. Then he replied, "If I can go, I am naturally willing. Please help me contact Dao Yu." The stall owner was very happy. "Since Dao Yu is willing, give me 3 days. I will contact my friend." Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "Thank you very much, Dao Yu. I will come back in 3 days." After saying that, he turned around and left the stall, continuing to search for spiritual objects nearby. After walking a few steps, he saw something valuable on a stall. In the corner of the stall, there was an iron cage. In the cage, there were 5 snow-white chickens, 1 male and 4 females. The roosters had blood-red crowns, their tails were more than a foot long, and their beaks and claws were like white jade. He asked his clone to check the 10,000 Spirit Atlas and learned that this thing was called the Jade Bone Phoenix Tail Pheasant, a first-rank mid-grade or high-grade spiritual bird. The Jade Bone Phoenix Tail Pheasant was also a famous delicacy. It was not very helpful for cultivation, but the taste was superb. An adult rooster could be sold for 100 or 80 spirit stones. As for the hens, only rogue cultivators would be willing to sell them. Otherwise, who would be willing to sell them? The Jade Bone Phoenix Tail Pheasant was very suitable to be raised in the spiritual fields. It would not spoil the spiritual herbs and could also kill insects. Although the spiritual bead space did not need to kill insects, the clan's spiritual fields still needed them. If he bought these Jade Bone Phoenix Tail Pheasants and multiplied them in the future, he could add another dish to the clan's restaurant. In addition, the blood of the Phoenix Tail Pheasant could be used to make spiritual ink. Using the blood of demonic beasts to make spiritual ink had strict requirements for the type of demonic beast. This was because the blood of many demonic beasts had the attributes of the 5 elements. For example, the blood of the raging flame lion contained the fire attribute. The spiritual ink made from this kind of blood could only be used to refine fire attribute spiritual talismans. The spiritual ink had the fire attribute. Although it limited the types of spiritual talismans that could be refined, the fire attribute spiritual talismans refined would be stronger than the non-attribute spiritual ink. The blood of the Jade Bone Phoenix Tail Pheasant had no attribute, so the spiritual ink made from it could be used to refine first-rank spiritual talismans of all attributes. It could be used to replace the spiritual ink made from first-rank cinnabar. If he raised some in the space, he would not need to buy first-rank spiritual ink in the future. Chapter 103. Wang Daoyuan stepped forward and offered to buy the jade-boned phoenix-tailed pheasants. Perhaps it was because the actual value of this thing was not high, and it was difficult to sell in a place like the Oasis, so the stall owner's price was very realistic. 5 jade-boned phoenix-tailed pheasants were bought for only 50 spirit stones. After that, he did not continue to look for other spiritual items. If he spent too many spirit stones at once, it would be easy to be targeted. Anyway, he still had a long time to stay in the Oasis, so he was not in a hurry to spend a day or two. After returning to the Zhao General Store, Wang Daoyuan began to use the second-grade cinnabar ore to make spiritual ink. This was a delicate work and his clone was a novice. He had not even made a first-grade spiritual ink before, so he could not leave it all to his clone. When he was learning how to make talismans at the Jade Spring Peak, he made a lot of spiritual ink. Later, because of his high level of making first-grade spiritual ink, Ninth Uncle gave him special treatment and taught him how to make second-grade spiritual ink. If not for that, he would not have been able to use this ore. To make spiritual ink with ore, he needed to first crush the ore and then grind it into fine powder. The finer the powder, the better. This process did not require any skill, so he could leave it to his clone. After that, he had to purify the ore powder and remove the impurities. The purification techniques were different from each other, and the amount of impurities was directly related to the quality of the spiritual ink. This required him to do it personally. After the purification, he had to add a few auxiliary materials and mix them with water. This could also be left to his clone. The main value of the spiritual ink production method was the purification technique and the auxiliary material formula. During the whole process, he had to ensure that the spiritual energy in the cinnabar was not consumed too much. Otherwise, it would be a big loss if the second-grade cinnabar could only make the first-grade spiritual ink. After 3 days, he finally made all the cinnabar ore into spiritual ink with the help of his clone. After tidying up, he left the store again and went to the stall under the big willow tree that wanted to sell him the hidden cloud tea. When he arrived, he saw a shifty-eyed middle-aged cultivator standing beside the stall owner. He was at the 8th level of qi refinement. When the stall owner saw Wang Daoyuan, he quickly introduced him. "The tea was sold to me by my friend. You can chat." Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "I'm Zhao Yunxing. Greetings to Daoyu." The middle-aged cultivator also cupped his hands and said, "I'm Zheng Kang. Greetings to Zhao Daoyu. Zhao Daoyu has such a cultivation at such a young age. You are indeed a young hero." Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Daoyu flatter me. This matter should not be discussed in public. Why don't the two of you follow me somewhere else?" Zheng Kang had no objections. As for the stall owner, it was useless for him to go. It would also delay his business, so he tactfully declined Wang Daoyuan's invitation. Wang Daoyuan brought Zheng Kang to Zhao's sundry goods store, opened the array and entered the store. Zheng Kang sighed and said, "So Daoyu Zhao owns a shop? I couldn't tell. I don't have the ability to take over the family business left behind by my elders." Wang Daoyuan said modestly, "As for Daoyu Zheng, if you have any good things in the future, you can come to me to sell them. I will definitely give Daoyu a good price for all kinds of spiritual items. If Daoyu wants to buy pills and talismans, we will give you a 20% discount." At this time, there was no broker present, so he was not afraid of leaking the information. Hearing Wang Daoyuan's words, Zheng Kang's face was full of joy. "That's good. In the future, I will have to deal with Daoyu Zhao Daoyu. Please take care of me." Under the double pressure of brokers and shops, rogue cultivators always had good things, but they could not sell them for a good price. To have a business channel like Zhao's sundry goods store, they were naturally very happy. Wang Daoyuan asked, "When will Daoyu Zhao have time to go to Hidden Cloud Continent?" Zheng Kang replied, "The last time I went to Hidden Cloud Continent, I narrowly escaped death. This time I need to be well prepared." Wang Daoyuan took out dozens of first-level high-grade talismans and more than 100 different kinds of pills. He said, "What does Daoyu Zhao need to prepare? Just tell me." Zheng Kang bought 5 talismans for attack, defense and escape, as well as 10 pills for recovery, healing, detoxification and so on. Wang Daoyuan gave him a 20% discount, which totaled less than 300 spirit stones. This price in Clear Glass City was a rip-off, but in Green Willow Continent, it was a good price. Zheng Kang bought so many life-saving items at a low price, so he was happy to see his teeth but not his eyes. Wang Daoyuan took out 5 fasting pills and said, "These are fasting pills. 1 pill is equivalent to 5 caddies of spirit grains. Consider it my gift to Daoyu. What else does Daoyu Zhao need to prepare?" Fasting pills were the simplest type of pill. They were refined by extracting the essence of spirit grains. Wang Daoyuan had the spirit pearl space, so whatever he wanted to eat, he could just ask his clone to prepare it. He did not care about fasting pills at all. If not for fasting pills having a market in Green Willow Continent, he would not have asked his clone to refine them. He gave Zheng Kang so many benefits. Other than to let Zheng Kang go to Hidden Spirit Continent as soon as possible, it was also to stabilize Zheng Kang. He gave him long-term benefits. Even if the matter of Hidden Cloud Tea was a trap set by Gao Yuan, these benefits were enough to make Zheng Kang reluctant to kill him. After all, Gao Yuan was so stingy, how many benefits could he give? Zheng Kang took the fasting pills and thought for a long time. He said, "Since Daoyu is so sincere, then we will leave in 3 days, just the two of us. Daoyu, what do you think?" He naturally did not have any objections. He replied, "Let's do as Daoyu said. 3 days later, I will wait for Daoyu in this shop." Zheng Kang said his goodbyes and left. Wang Daoyuan did not have anything to prepare. When he was cultivating in the Spirit Spring Cave, he also insisted on refining talismans every day. In addition to what he had seized from Zhao Baogua, he now had nearly 1,000 talismans and more than 800 level 1 pills. When he changed his cultivation method, he also learned a lot of spells. The commonly used Golden Sword technique, Earth Armor technique, and other spells. When used, the power had surpassed a level 1 upper grade talisman. The 5 elements escape technique was also cultivated to perfection. After all, escaping was the most important thing. The Water Dragon technique and Smoke Escape, the 2 family heirlooms, did not fall behind. At present, the Water Dragon he condensed had reached 6 feet long. The Smoke Escape condensed clouds, the diameter of which had reached more than 10 feet, and this was in a place where the water spirit chi was not very abundant. These 2 spells could not be used easily unless it was a last resort. It was too easy to be recognized. In these 3 days he was still as usual, cultivating cultivation methods, spells, and refining talismans. 3 days later, Zheng Kong arrived as promised. The 2 did not talk nonsense. Directly at the southern end of the oasis, they found a ferry and took a spirit ship to the southeast. The Hidden Cloud continent was more than 400 miles southeast of the oasis. It was the 2nd largest island in the 100 Rivers Lake, second only to the oasis. It was also the only mountainous island in the 100 Rivers Lake, unlike the other islands which were piled up with sand and sand. The Hidden Cloud continent was an irregular polygonal island. The longest from east to west was more than 100 miles, and the widest from north to south was more than 50 miles. There were 20 to 30 small mountains on the island. The main peak was the Hidden Cloud Peak, which was more than 400 feet high. It was located in the center of the Hidden Cloud continent. Only on the 9th day of the 9th month would it reveal its true appearance. The Hidden Cloud continent was surrounded by clouds all year round, suitable for demon beasts to hide. If human cultivators entered, they would be easily ambushed. Therefore, among the several large islands in the 100 Rivers Lake, it was the only one without cultivators. Chapter 104. The speed of the ship was very fast, and before long they could see a large cloud in front of them, covering the lake and the sky. As the spirit ship approached the northwest corner of the cloud, they could see some of the scenery on the edge. In front of them was a muddy beach, and there was a stream that flowed into the 100 River Lake. In the distance they could faintly see reefs above the water, and nearby they could see underwater reefs. No one lived in the Hidden Cloud continent, so there was no dock. With the underwater reefs, the spirit ship did not dare to get too close, and stopped a few miles away from the shore of the Hidden Cloud continent. The spirit ship leaned against a huge rock that was more than 3 feet high and 5 feet square. This was a transit station for the spirit ship's voyage, and the cultivators coming to and from the Hidden Cloud continent would also disembark here. Zheng Kong sent a sound transmission to Wang Daoyuan. "Daoyu Zhao, we need to swim the remaining few miles. There are many monster beasts lying in ambush underwater. Daoyu Zhao, if you have a breath-concealing technique or breath-concealing talisman, don't be stingy. Only by hiding your breath can you reach the Hidden Cloud continent alive. After entering the water, you must follow me closely. This place is a little far away, and even spiritual sense cannot detect you." Wang Daoyuan nodded and said, "Thank you for reminding me, Daoyu." There were 10 or 20 cultivators on the spirit ship, and at this time it was not the time to enter the Hidden Cloud continent, so most of them went elsewhere. Only Wang Daoyuan and Zheng Kong got off the ship. After the 2 got off the ship, they did not delay and immediately used the water escape and breath-concealing technique to dive into the water. When cultivators use spells, they needed spiritual power to circulate through the body along a specific meridian. Therefore, when using 2 different spells at the same time, it was easy to cause a conflict between the spiritual power and the meridian, and it required more spiritual sense to control the spiritual power. Once the spiritual power went out of control, there would be a backlash from the spell, or even a cultivation deviation. Therefore, unless it was a last resort, cultivators would not use 2 different spells at the same time. However, simple spells like breath-holding spell and invisibility spell didn't run in the meridians and didn't conflict with most spells. Wang Daoyuan's appearance-changing technique did not rely on spiritual power, so it did not conflict with any spells. After the 2 of them entered the water, Zheng Kong used his water escape technique to the fullest extent, rushing straight towards the small stream in the Hidden Cloud continent. Wang Daoyuan's spirit chi was much stronger than that of the average level 8 chi refinement cultivator. Even if he was only using the ordinary water escape technique, it was effortless for him to follow behind Zheng Kong. In just a few miles, there were more than 10 waves of aquatic demon beasts blocking their path. The 2 of them were unable to advance in a straight line. They could only pass through the gaps between the demonic beasts. Being chased, Wang Daoyuan had no choice but to use the golden sword technique. He condensed a small golden sword and attacked a 10-meter-long catfish. Under Wang Daoyuan's control, the golden sword didn't go straight in. Instead, it slid past Catfish's body, leaving a 3-foot-long wound. Although the wound was very shallow and could only be considered a light injury, Catfish had lost quite a bit of blood. The eyes of aquatic demonic beasts were not very good. Compared to humans, their divine senses were also very weak. First-rank aquatic demon beasts mainly hunt by capturing auras and sensing disturbances in the water. At this time, Catfish had lost a lot of blood, and the smell of blood spread nearby. Wang Daoyuan and Zheng Kong used the breath-holding technique again. The aura they emitted was extremely subtle and couldn't be compared to the strong smell of blood. There were dozens of demonic beasts gathered in this area, and the lake water was stirred up. It was completely impossible to track the enemy by sensing the disturbances in the water. For a time, more than 90% of the demonic beasts gave up on the two of them and turned to attack Catfish. Catfish could become a demonic beast, so it was naturally not stupid. Seeing a group of demonic beasts surrounding it, it flicked its tail and turned to escape. As a result, most of the demonic beasts were taken away. The remaining few could not play a role in encircling them. The two of them quickly reached the shore of the hidden cloud continent. In order to get rid of the aquatic demon beasts, the two of them didn't go deep into the hidden cloud continent along the stream. Instead, they went ashore. Zheng Kong transmitted his voice, "Dao Yuzhao, we will follow the stream and go inside. You must follow closely. If I go into the water, you go into the water. If I go ashore, you go ashore. Don't hesitate." Wang Daoyuan did not transmit his voice and just nodded. The two of them used the breath-holding technique and divine walking technique. After running for more than 3 miles, Zheng Kong did not stop and directly jumped into the stream. Wang Daoyuan also followed suit. He jumped into the stream and used the water escape technique to follow behind Zheng Kong. After they entered the water for a few breaths, a wolf-shaped demonic beast appeared at the place where they entered the water. The wolf's nose was still on the ground sniffing. When it smelled the place where they entered the water, it looked around in confusion and walked away. After Wang Daoyuan followed Zheng Kong into the water, they traveled for 5 or 6 miles. Behind them, a group of fish began to chase. Zheng Kong jumped out of the water again and continued to run after going ashore. Wang Daoyuan also went ashore. The group of fish that was chasing them circled around for a while before dispersing. Wang Daoyuan secretly said, "This Zheng Kong is really a veteran. By going into the water, he got rid of the pursuers on the shore. By going ashore, he got rid of the pursuers underwater." In addition, the two of them used the breath-holding technique, so they left less scent in the places they passed. It would take a long time for demonic beasts to track them by scent. They were taking advantage of the time when the demonic beasts were searching for scent to hurry on. After switching between land and water several times, the two of them went more than 20 miles deep. Zheng Kong finally changed direction. He no longer followed the stream but turned to a small mountain. Walking forward and climbing halfway up the mountain, he found a gap between a large isolated rock and the mountain. It was big enough for one person to pass through. Without saying a word, Zheng Kong directly entered the gap. Wang Daoyuan took out a jade pendant and a few earth armor talismans and stuffed them in his clothes to prevent any sudden attacks. He also followed Zheng Kong into the gap. After entering the gap, they went through a narrow passage more than 10 feet long and came to an underground cave that covered an area of about 20 acres. There was a basin-sized skylight above, more than 20 feet from the ground. It could let in light, so the cave was not very dark. The cave was not flat. There were a few large stones on the ground. There were many first-grade spirit herbs growing around the stones. Although they were not precious varieties, there were still a few rare ones. Wang Daoyuan planned to transplant the spirit herbs that were not in the space of the spirit pearl after picking the hidden cloud tea. The hidden cloud tea tree was in the innermost part of the cave, close to the stone wall. It was a big tea tree that was half a foot in diameter and was taller than a person. Next to it were 2 small tea trees that were more than a foot tall and only as thick as an adult's thumb. Above the tea trees, there was constantly water dripping down, watering the tea trees. Zheng Kong stopped a few feet away from the tea trees. Wang Daoyuan asked, "Why didn't Daoyu come forward? Is there a demonic beast guarding it?" Zheng Kong smiled and said, "The last time I came here, there was indeed a first-grade high-grade demonic beast, but it was killed by me and my companions. There won't be any demonic beast here in a short time." Wang Daoyuan was a little confused. Since there are no demonic beasts, why didn't Daoyu come forward to pick it? Zheng Kang's smiling face became ferocious. He sneered and said, "If you pick it now, won't the tea be divided between 2 people? I asked Daoyu to come here so that Daoyu can help me clean up the demonic beasts along the way. Now that the hidden cloud tea is in front of us, Does Daoyu still want to divide the tea? Speaking of which, I have to thank Daoyu. If it weren't for Daoyu's help, I would have to go through a lot of trouble to come here alone. You and my companions last time are both good people. I will remember you. Chapter 105. Hearing this, Wang Daoyuan was not angry but laughed. I am not a good person, but I think your character is not bad. You gave me 2 tea trees for free. Unfortunately, good people do not live long in Green Willow Province. If you think your companion from last time is a good person, then I will do a good deed and send you to see him. He understood the principle of villains die from talking too much. Before he finished, a golden sword talisman flew towards Zheng Kong. Zheng Kong took out a silver-white sword and chopped down the small golden sword. From the fluctuation of his spirit energy, Zheng Kong should be a metal-type cultivator. At this time, Wang Daoyuan had already activated the Earth Armor Talisman on his body, 4 layers of Earth Yellow armor covered his body. Zheng Kong pounced towards Wang Daoyuan with his sword. Wang Daoyuan immediately used Smoke Escape to dodge the attack. He took out the Profound Yang sword, taking advantage of the fact that the Smoke Escape had not dissipated. He used the escape technique again. In a flash, he arrived in front of Zheng Kong and stabbed with his sword. Zheng Kong blocked with his sword and dodged the Profound Yang sword. In this exchange, Wang Daoyuan had a rough estimate of Zheng Kang's strength. He was much stronger than Shi Xinghua, but slightly weaker than himself. Without using any trump cards, he could take him down with just the Profound Yang sword. At this time, Zheng Kong laughed. I thought it would not take much effort to kill a 7th-level Qi disciple. I did not expect you to be so capable. If I do not use my full strength, I will not be able to kill you. If you know what is good for you, hand over the talismans and pills, and leave behind your escape technique. I can let you go. Wang Daoyuan thought, so it was because I showed off my wealth when I sold him the talismans and pills that this guy remembered. He really has not seen the world. Is there a need to risk his life for something that he did not even take seriously? He was a full man who did not know the hunger of a hungry man. Dozens of talismans and over 100 pills could be sold for 2,000 to 3,000 spirit stones in Green Willow Province. Ordinary Qi disciple rogue cultivators could not earn 1,000 spirit stones by hunting demon beasts and risking their lives for a year. 2,000 to 3,000 spirit stones was 3 years of income. With 3 years of total income in front of them, only a minority would not be tempted. Zheng Kang's spirit power fluctuated violently, and then his aura continued to rise. He quickly reached the 9th level of Qi disciple, and there was no sign of it stopping. Finally, his aura stabilized at the peak of Qi refining stage. He sneered at Wang Daoyuan and said, Kid, I'll take your life. You can only blame yourself for being too greedy and coveting my hidden cloud tea. Wang Daoyuan saw that his aura was no longer rising. He had just reached the peak of Qi refinement, which was incomparable to his 12th uncle Wang Shui. If Zheng Kong encountered the 12th uncle, he would probably be strangled to death by the water dragon technique. He heaved a sigh of relief and said, You scared me to death. I thought you were a foundation establishment cultivator, but you're only at the peak of Qi refinement. Don't even think about leaving here alive today. Hearing his words, Zheng Kong said disdainfully, Ignorant brat, boasting shamelessly. Aren't you afraid that the wind will cut your tongue? Finished speaking, he pounced at Wang Daoyuan with his sword. Wang Daoyuan calmly put away the Profound Yang sword and took out the 5-dragon soul-chasing whip. At this time, Zheng Kong was already very close to him. He directly used the cloud escape to escape to the side. He turned around and whipped at the place where he was previously. A moment later, Zheng Kong just happened to pounce at his previous position, and the tip of his whip just happened to hit him. Zheng Kang's peak Qi refinement stage cultivation was not for show. He had been through life and death in the oasis for many years. His fighting instincts were still extremely strong. He heard the sound of the whip breaking through the wind and immediately waved his sword to block. With a crisp sound, the tip of the whip hit his long sword, and the long sword issued a buzzing sound. In this collision, neither of them suffered a loss. It could be considered a draw. Zheng Kong was not afraid. Instead, he greedily looked at the long sword in Wang Daoyuan's hand and said, What a good treasure. I can't believe I can actually get a 2nd-level magic tool. He was too lazy to pay attention to this reckless guy. He lashed out with his whip again. Zheng Kong once again blocked the tip of the whip. The two of them went back and forth. After dozens of moves, there was no clear winner. Wang Daoyuan's gains were huge. Although he had been practicing the whip technique for a long time, he could be considered to have some achievements. But he had always been working behind closed doors. He had never used it in a real battle. This time he met such an evenly matched opponent. After dozens of moves, his control of the 5-dragon soul-chasing whip had improved greatly. Zheng Kang's spirit energy was also very strong. After dozens of moves he still maintained his peak state. But as Wang Daoyuan's whip technique became more and more proficient, the battle went from a draw to Wang Daoyuan having a slight advantage. Although Zheng Kang was slightly at a disadvantage, he did not panic. In the process of the two of them fighting, Wang Daoyuan had used the escape technique many times to dodge an attack. His spirit energy consumption was greater than his. Wang Daoyuan's cultivation had just entered Qi refinement stage 7 not long ago. He was at the peak of Qi refinement stage. In his opinion, if he continued to fight, the winner would definitely be him. He wanted to use Zheng Kang as a whetstone. Zheng Kang wanted to exhaust him to death. Ever since he left the mountain, the thing he was least afraid of was a battle of attrition. Now he had thousands of talismans and hundreds of bottles of aged scarlet blood wine in the space of the spirit pearl. Among them, there were 40 to 50 bottles that were nearly 40 years old. The two of them had no intention of changing the battle situation, so they continued to be in a stalemate. After 15 minutes, the two of them had exchanged nearly 100 moves. Zheng Kang was starting to doubt his life. He was at the peak of Qi refinement stage and his spirit energy was already running low. How could this kid in front of him still be in high spirits? He didn't even show any signs of fatigue. Although Wang Daoyuan's spirit energy was much stronger than cultivators of the same level, compared to Zheng Kang, who was at the peak of Qi refinement stage, he was still slightly inferior. Even if the 5-dragon soul-chasing whips saved spirit energy, his condition would not be better than Zheng Kang's. The reason why he was able to outlast Zheng Kang was because Wang Daoyuan would seize the opportunity to circulate his technique and recover a bit of spirit energy in between moves. When Zheng Kang pounced, he would use the cloud escape to escape and then counterattack. After all, this was an island in the middle of a lake. The island was also surrounded by clouds and mist. The water spirit energy was very dense. He used the cloud escape very little. Every time he recovered a few breaths of time, he would use the cloud escape to dodge. The amount of spirit energy recovered was slightly more than the amount of spirit energy consumed by the cloud escape. Relying on the advantage of the 5 spirit roots rapid recovery, after 15 minutes, the amount of spirit energy he recovered was very impressive. At this time he was not as relaxed as he looked. Circulating his technique for a short period of time and then stopping to use his escape technique consumed a lot of his spirit energy. If it wasn't for his strong spirit energy, playing like this would very likely cause him to lose control of his spirit energy and injure himself. Ever since he came out of seclusion, he had never faced an evenly matched opponent in a direct confrontation. This kind of risk was also to train his ability to face the enemy head-on and increase his own battle strength. In fact, he could also clearly feel that his condition was deteriorating. It was just that he concealed it better. However, his overall condition was still much better than Zheng Kang's. This kind of tactic of recovering spirit energy while fighting could only be used when the opponent did not have the ability to instantly kill him. If Zheng Kang had the ability to heavily injure him in one blow, he would very likely be killed directly if he diverted his attention to recover spirit energy during the exchange. As an experienced person, Zheng Kang was keenly aware that things were not quite right. If he continued to waste time, he would definitely be the one to die. Wang Daoyuan once again struck Zheng Kang with his whip, then stood in place and circulated his technique to recover his spirit energy. Zheng Kang did not rush over at this time. Instead, he put away his long sword and stood in place. The fluctuations of spirit energy around him became more and more intense. He was preparing for a big move. Naturally, he would not give Zheng Kang a chance and directly lashed out with his whip. Zheng Kang did not dodge. Instead, a golden light flashed out of his body and took the whip head-on. The power of this whip was also exhausted by the golden light and did not hurt Zheng Kang at all. Wang Daoyuan was a little surprised. He did not expect that a loose cultivator would have such a powerful technique. Just by accumulating spirit energy, he could take his attack head-on and come out unscathed. He thought to himself, "Since you are standing still, you are giving me a chance to test the power of 5 consecutive whips." The long whip in his hand quickly and continuously lashed out. In a little more than 3 breaths he had lashed out 5 times. This speed was still a little slower than Zhao Bao's half a breath's time. The 5 whips were about to explode. At this time, Zheng Kang had also finished accumulating spirit energy. A golden ball of spirit energy condensed in his hands and was about to strike. Chapter 106. The remaining spiritual power from Wang Daoyuan's 5 whips suddenly appeared, condensed and burst out in an instant. At the same time, The golden spiritual power in Zheng Kang's hand condensed into a golden rock with a wingspan of more than 10 feet. The rock flapped its wings and countless golden feathers flew out. The rock itself also pounced forward. The five-colored spirit chi clashed with the golden rock, and both the rock and the spirit chi exploded. The spiritual power disappeared, and the golden rock was smashed to pieces. Most of the golden feathers were also shattered, and the broken golden feathers danced in the air. The golden feathers struck the surrounding stone walls, leaving behind a series of cuts. Wang Daoyuan was also hit by several feathers, but he had 4 layers of earth armor on his body. When the feathers flew over, he cast the earth armor himself, so these feathers couldn't hurt him. Even so, 3 layers of the earth armor were broken. Each feather had half the lethality of the golden sword art. This was the result of the golden rock's phantom resisting the 5 whips, which reduced the power of the feathers. The power of this spell was much stronger than that of Wang Daoyuan's water dragon art. The water dragon art only condensed a stronger water dragon, and it relied on the water dragon to fight in close combat. However, this golden rock could actually shoot feathers to hurt people. Something condensed with a spell could actually cast spells. Zheng Kang, on the other hand, was too confident in his spell to use any defensive means at all. Fortunately, the feathers shot out by the rock all flew toward Wang Daoyuan. Otherwise, he would definitely be turned into a sieve by the feathers. However, he took the full brunt of the blast wave of the explosion. 2 spells comparable to the full-strength attack of an early-stage Foundation Establishment cultivator collided with each other. The power that erupted was enough to kill a Foundation Establishment cultivator. Zheng Kang didn't take any defensive measures and took the blow head-on. His body was directly sent flying by the blast wave and hit the wall. After landing, there were no signs of life. To be on the safe side, Wang Daoyuan still used the golden sword technique, aiming at the space between Zheng Kang's eyebrows. After more than 10 breaths, Zheng Kang didn't have any reaction. Only then did he relax and walk over. He directly threw Zheng Kang's body into the space of the spirit pearl and handed it over to his doppelganger to deal with. Just as he was about to pick the hidden cloud tea, cracks appeared on the stone wall that Zheng Kang had crashed into, and stones began to fall down. Wang Daoyuan lashed out with his whip and the stone wall shattered, revealing the space behind the stone wall. At this moment, a mountain-shattering tiger roar resounded. Wang Daoyuan felt his soul becoming unstable. This was at least the power of a second-order demonic beast. He was scared out of his wits. He immediately used the cloud mist escape and fled to the entrance. Without saying a word, he entered. Tiger demonic beasts were at least a few feet long and 6 to 7 feet tall. They definitely wouldn't be able to squeeze into the narrow part of the cave. He still had a chance to escape. After a tiger's roar, no tigers appeared even after a long while. At this moment, a tiger's roar rang out. However, this tiger's roar was not intimidating at all. Instead, it was a little cute. Wang Daoyuan probed with his divine sense and saw that there was also a huge cave on the other side of the stone wall. In the corner of the cave there was a grass nest. In the grass nest there was a white tiger that was 5 feet long. Behind its shoulders, there were 2 pieces of long hair that were shaped like clouds. Wang Daoyuan asked his doppelganger to check the All Spirits Atlas. He learned that this tiger was called Yun-Yi tiger. Yun-Yi tigers were second-order superior-grade demonic beasts. Only a few of them could break through to third-order inferior grade. The cloud-shaped long hair behind Yun-Yi tiger's shoulders could turn into 2 wings and fly with the wind. This was how Yun-Yi tigers got their name. However, this Yun-Yi tiger's abdomen had a few exaggerated scratches that went deep into its body. Its internal organs were seriously damaged. It should have been scratched by other beasts. Yun-Yi tiger's blood flowed everywhere. It was already at the point of exhaustion. On its head there was a small Yun-Yi tiger that was 1 foot long. It crouched on its mother's head and let out a tiger's roar to intimidate Wang Daoyuan. However, this tiger's roar was really not intimidating. The tiger's roar just now should have been the tigress roaring with all her strength to scare away Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan walked over and stood in front of the grass nest. The tigress wanted to roar again, but she opened her mouth with great effort and did not make any sound. That tiger's roar exhausted all her strength. Now, the tigress did not even have the strength to raise her head. The tigress looked at the little Yun-Yi tiger and shed tears. Then, she looked at Wang Daoyuan with a pleading expression. Wang Daoyuan knew what she meant. He said with his divine sense, "Don't worry. I won't hurt the little guy. I'll even raise it." The tigress was at least a second-order demonic beast. Its intelligence was comparable to that of a 10-year-old child. Although she had never come into contact with humans and could not understand human language, she could still understand him using his divine sense to directly express his meaning. Her eyes were filled with gratitude as she looked at Wang Daoyuan. The little Yun-Yi tiger came down from its mother's head. The tigress wanted to lick it again, but she no longer had the strength. She stretched out her tongue forcefully, but she could not touch the little Yun-Yi tiger. Wang Daoyuan saw that the little Yun-Yi tiger was as thin as a match and its fur was dry. It must have been hungry for a long time. The tigress had lost all her blood, so it was impossible for her to feed it any more milk. Wang Daoyuan asked his clone to squeeze a bowl of milk for the long-eared rabbit. He took out a bowl of rabbit milk and placed it in front of the little Yun-Yi tiger's mouth. The little Yun-Yi tiger had been hungry for many days. If it was not a spirit beast, it would have starved to death long ago. At this moment it could not care about anything else. It stuck its head into the bowl and drank greedily. In a short while the big bowl of rabbit milk was empty. When the tigress saw that the little Yun-Yi tiger had something to eat, she revealed a gratified expression. After the last 2 drops of tears flowed out of her eyes, she closed them forever. The little Yun-Yi tiger seemed to have sensed something. It looked at the tigress and let out a mournful roar. Wang Daoyuan could not bear to sell the tigress's corpse anymore. He used the earth wall technique and condensed countless pieces of earth to bury the tigress in the nest. It could be considered the tigress's grave. He then found a stone slab and engraved the words "Grave of Little Yun-Yi Tiger's Mother" on it. He placed it in front of the grave. The little Yun-Yi tiger was still roaring mournfully. Wang Daoyuan could not bear to see it so sad. He kept it in the space of the spirit pearl and handed it over to his clone to take care of. After dealing with the 2 Yun-Yi tigers, he went to the entrance of the Yun-Yi tiger's nest. He moved a few stones and used the earth wall technique to condense the stones into a block to block the entrance of the cave to prevent people or demonic beasts from barging in. Then he piled up the stone wall between the 2 caves and used the earth wall technique to condense it into a hole. Separating the 2 caves was conducive to hiding the hidden cloud tea. After doing all this, he began to deal with the 3 hidden cloud tea plants. It was said that the hidden cloud tea could not survive outside of the hidden cloud continent. Wang Daoyuan did not dare to transplant the 3 tea plants into the space. He chose a small tea plant that grew a little stronger and transplanted it into the space. For spiritual trees, the survival rate of small transplants was generally higher. If it could not survive after being transplanted into the space of the spirit pearl, there were still 2 tea plants here as backup. After that, he picked all the tender leaves of the 2 tea plants that had not been transplanted and put them in a box made of mutton fat jade. These tea leaves weighed 5 or 6 kilograms. Even if they were made into dry goods, it could still be more than 1 kilogram. This was not a small income. Then he left the cave and moved a big stone to block the entrance of the cave from the outside. He used the earth wall technique to merge the stone with the mountain. Although the part adhered by the earth wall technique was not as strong as the original rock, it was still a stone and would not break easily. In this place with rich spiritual aura, after absorbing spiritual aura for several years, the stone condensed by the earth wall technique would be no different from the original rock in terms of strength. Chapter 107. After Wang Daoyuan left the cave, he followed the path he came from and left the hidden cloud continent. Although his speed was the same as when he came, and even the place where he entered and exited the stream did not change, he was still discovered by the demonic beasts. Fortunately, he had the misty cloud escape. The clouds of the hidden cloud continent were not much different from the clouds of the misty cloud escape. He could use the misty cloud escape to quickly travel through the clouds. The speed of the misty cloud escape had already surpassed the speed of ordinary rank 1 monsters. With this, he managed to avoid the pursuit of many monster beasts and finally left the hidden cloud continent safely. Next, he swam from the shore of the hidden cloud continent to the large rock that was used to get on and off the spirit ship. Previously, with Zheng Kong present, he did not dare to use the misty cloud escape. Now that he was alone, he could use the misty cloud escape with all his strength and directly pass through the water monsters. Before the monsters could react, he had already disappeared. After climbing onto the rock, a spirit ship quickly came over. Wang Daoyuan boarded the ship and smoothly returned to the oasis. He returned to his shop and activated the defensive formation. He took out a book and 2 jade slips. The book and jade slips were left behind by Zheng Kong. After Wang Daoyuan captured Zheng Kong, he gave his body to his clone to deal with. Apart from the silver longsword, only the book and the 2 jade slips were valuable on Zheng Kang's body. This book was extremely strange. In Beiyuan Xiaoxin, most cultivators used jade slips to record things. High-level books were also written in beast skin. These 2 methods used spiritual sense imprints, but the book left behind by Zheng Kong was different. The pages of the book were made of some unknown metal and the content was engraved on it. It was not imprinted with spiritual sense. Although the contents of the divine sense imprint were convenient to read, it would completely disappear after a long time. As long as the pages weren't destroyed, the contents wouldn't disappear. This book only had 4 pages including the cover. On the cover were the words Golden Rock Fighting Dragon Technique. The first page of the book described the process of creating this secret technique. The creator of this secret technique was called True Monarch Golden Rock. According to the rules of Beiyuan Xiuxin, generally, Zifu realm experts would have the title of Loose Cultivator, while Jindan stage experts would be called Taoist Master. When Wang Qingzu was at the Zifu realm, his title was Unfettered Sea Topple. Later he broke through to the Jindan stage and obtained the title of Marquis Yuquan. His title was Taoist Yuquan. Only the best of the Yuanying had the right to be called a true monarch. There was no doubt that True Lord Golden Rock was a Yuanying cultivator, and an expert at that. The book did not record which era True Lord Golden Rock was from. It only mentioned that when he had just broken through to the Yuanying realm, he went out to travel and encountered a 5th-rank upper-grade python in a large swamp. Then he went through the tribulation of transforming into a flood dragon. Just as the giant python finished its tribulation and transformed into a flood dragon, a great rock covered in golden feathers took advantage of the situation and tried to capture the flood dragon. This great rock's cultivation base was at the lower tier of the 5th rank. There was quite a gap between it and the flood dragon. However, the flood dragon was originally a python. Transforming into a flood dragon with the bloodline of a divine beast and breaking its own limits was a violation of the laws of heaven and earth. How could the tribulation of transforming into a flood dragon be ordinary? The flood dragon had just transcended the tribulation and was severely injured. Although there would be a reward for successfully transcending the tribulation, the flood dragon's foundation would not be damaged and there would be great benefits. However, it was not possible for the flood dragon to quickly recover from its injuries. Golden Rock wanted to seize the opportunity to capture the flood dragon and devour the 5th-rank upper-grade bloodline of a divine beast. It was only a matter of time before its cultivation base reached that level. However, the flood dragon had the bloodline of a true dragon. Even if it was severely injured, it was not to be trifled with. The flood dragon and the rock fought a bloody battle. In the end, both of them were severely injured and fled. Although True Lord Golden Rock's cultivation base was similar to the Golden Rock's, the rock had the bloodline of a divine beast and was far stronger than humans of the same level. Even if it was severely injured, it was not something a Yuanying cultivator like him could compare to. True Lord Golden Rock was not completely without benefit. He had watched the entire battle and was suddenly inspired to imitate the innate techniques used by the rock in battle. He created the Golden Rock Wrestling Dragon technique. This secret technique allowed one to condense the image of the Golden Rock and use it to unleash the various innate techniques of the rock. True Lord Golden Rock relied on this technique to become one of the top Yuanying cultivators. His title was also derived from this technique. Beiyuan Xiuxin. Ever since the various countries fought for supremacy 10,000 years ago, no Yuanying cultivators had appeared. Since True Lord Golden Rock was able to see an upper-grade 5th-rank flood dragon, his era must have been very long ago. The second page of the main text recorded the method to condense the image of the Golden Rock. The third page recorded the golden feather used by Zheng Kong, but it was not complete. The fourth page should have a part of it, but unfortunately it was missing. The golden feather used by Zheng Kong was called the feather blade. It was one of the Golden Rock's innate techniques. Unfortunately, this secret technique was severely damaged. It only recorded the complete method to condense the image of the Golden Rock. Even the feather blade was missing a part and the other techniques were all lost. If he used the complete version of the feather blade with his current cultivation, the power of a single feather would probably surpass the golden sword technique and be comparable to the golden saber technique. This incomplete secret technique could only be used to condense the image of the Golden Rock. Apart from using the feather blade, it could only be used for melee combat. Even so, it was still more powerful than the water dragon technique. After all, the water dragon condensed by the water dragon technique could only be used for melee combat. The Golden Rock Wrestling Dragon technique did not have a specific grade. Its power depended on the strength of the cultivator's spiritual energy and spiritual sense. Zheng Kong, a peak chi refinement cultivator, had to store up energy for a long time to use it. One could imagine how much energy it would consume. This metal attribute secret technique could be considered to make up for Wang Daoyuan's lack of offensive power. Without using his trump card, his only powerful attack was the 5 consecutive whips. Without using all 5 elements, as long as the opponent was proficient in escape techniques, the final burst of power would not be able to hit the opponent. It was not qualified to be called the soul-chasing whip. Although the water dragon technique was strong and could be used to attack, defend, and scare monsters, it was not lethal enough. The golden rock wrestling dragon technique was metal attribute, not to mention its offensive power. Even if he only used the image of the golden rock in melee combat, it could still beat all level 1 spells. The other 2 jade slips recorded Zheng Kang's main cultivation technique, the sharp metal secret technique, and a spiritual sense secret technique, the heaven peering technique. The sharp metal secret technique was not rare. The Wang family had it. Wang Daoxing cultivated the sharp metal secret technique. Many metal attribute cultivators cultivated this technique and could cultivate to the peak foundation establishment stage. The level of this technique was still very high. It strengthened the sharpness of metal attribute spiritual energy. When cultivators used metal attribute spells, their penetrative power would be stronger. The other heaven peering technique was a secret technique that used spiritual sense to probe. The name was scary, but the actual effect was just that. It condensed an eye of spiritual sense, and through the eye of spiritual sense, the detection range could be increased. It was especially effective when detecting things that could affect the power of spiritual sense. When Zheng Kang brought Wang Daoyuan into the hidden cloud continent, they were able to avoid the attacks of monsters every time because of the heaven peering technique. Generally, a peak chi refinement cultivator's spiritual sense could only detect up to 10 steps in the clouds of the hidden cloud continent. Using the heaven peering technique, one could detect things up to 20 feet away. If one used the heaven peering technique in a normal environment, the detection range would be doubled, but the consumption of spiritual sense would be much greater. Overall, the heaven peering technique was a good secret technique. In a special environment like the hidden cloud continent, it was very useful. However, it was not very strong. Chapter 108. Zheng Kang's silver sword was called the Sharp Golden Sword. It was a high-grade first-tier magic tool. Apart from its sharpness, there was nothing special about it. However, it was much stronger than his profound Yang sword. He could use it in the future. When he sparred with Shi Xinghua last time, he used the profound Yang sword. The juniors of those foundation establishment cultivators recognized him. If he casually took out the profound Yang sword, he would be easily recognized. Wang Daoyuan put away the sharp golden sword and the 2 jade slips. He began to comprehend the golden rock wrestling dragon technique. This would be his main attack method in the future. The golden rock wrestling dragon technique was much more difficult than the water dragon technique. After all, the water dragon technique was specially simplified by the ancestor for the juniors to learn. After bitterly cultivating for half a month, he finally succeeded in condensing the golden rock's image. Although the golden rock's image was less than 4 feet long, and he needed 5 to 6 breaths of time to condense it, he still got the hang of it. Wang Daoyuan controlled the golden rock's image and shot out a feather. It hit a rock in the courtyard, leaving a 5-inch mark on the rock. It was more than 80% of the golden sword technique's power, and the amount of spiritual energy used to use this feather was only half of the golden sword technique's power. With the same power, it consumed less spiritual energy. This was a clear indication of the difference in their levels. He controlled the golden rock again and released all the feathers to hit the rock. With his current cultivation, he could only condense 100 feathers at most, which would consume more than 50% of his spiritual energy. 100 feathers hit the rock, and the millstone-sized rock was directly smashed into countless pieces. This was the golden rock's image with a wingspan of less than 4 feet. Zheng Kang's golden rock's image had a wingspan of more than 10 feet. Wang Daoyuan was alarmed. Fortunately, he had used 5 consecutive whips to shatter the golden rock's image, causing the feathers to fly out of control. Otherwise, if all the feathers hit him, even the jade pendant wouldn't be able to save his life. Even without the feathers, the golden rock's image was much stronger than the water dragon technique in terms of physical strength. After all, it was a spell created by a Yuanine cultivator. It was reasonable that it was stronger than the water dragon technique created by his ancestor. However, the golden rock's shadow wasn't completely superior to the water dragon spell. The water dragon's agility and charm were stronger than the golden rock's shadow. After all, perfected cultivator Golden Rock had only been watching the battle from afar. The dragonfish had been there the whole time when the Wang family patriarch was modifying the water dragon technique. Using the feather blades consumed too much energy, and it was difficult to kill a cultivator of the same level with a single feather. When using the Golden Rock Wrestling Dragon technique against an enemy, it was better to use the Golden Rock projection for close combat. It seemed that in the future he would have to catch an eagle-type demonic beast and observe how the eagle fought to improve the Golden Rock's battle prowess. Now that he was done with the Golden Rock Wrestling Dragon technique, it was time to practice the Heaven-Peering technique. Although the Heaven-Peering technique was not considered very brilliant, it was still very useful in special circumstances. As the saying went, there was no harm in having more skills. Don't be afraid of preparing and not using, only of using and not preparing. The Heaven-Peering technique was relatively simple. Wang Daoyuan only used less than a day to successfully condense the eyes of spiritual sense. Ever since he cultivated the doppelganger soul-nurturing technique, his divine sense cultivation had improved rapidly, and he could detect things more than 700 feet away. After using the Heaven-Peering technique, his detection range increased to more than 1,500 feet. Of course, this was only the detection range, not the range of his divine sense. He could only use his divine sense to detonate talismans within 400 feet. Ordinary Foundation establishment cultivators could only detonate talismans within 100 feet at most. After that, Wang Daoyuan's life was very fulfilling. Every day he cultivated the 5 elements mixed essence technique and the doppelganger soul nurturing technique. He also practiced the whip technique, the Golden Rock Wrestling Dragon technique, the water dragon technique and the cloud escape. In addition, he also had to refine talismans. Half a year later, the 300 or so second-generation purple gold grass in the spirit pearl space could already be used to make talisman papers. In this half a year, he would refine a few superior grade 1 talismans almost every day. Ever since he cultivated the 5 elements mixed essence technique, he did not need to draw spirit energy from the outside world to refine 5 elements talismans. His success rate had greatly increased and was already more than 80%. He harvested 100 second-generation purple gold grass and made more than 200 inferior grade 2 talismans. If 9th great uncle saw so many grade 2 talismans, he would probably die of envy. When Wang Zhida refined the inferior grade 2 talismans, the talisman papers were all purchased from outside. At most, he could buy a dozen or so talismans each time. A few days ago, Wang Daoyuan had secretly returned to the clear glass market and bought an inferior grade 2 talisman pen. Now that he had talisman paper, spirit ink and talisman pen, everything was ready. He could now refine grade 2 talismans. The main difference between grade 2 talismans and grade 1 talismans was the runes. Compared to grade 1 talismans, grade 2 talismans were more complex and could contain more spirit energy. Drawing talismans required more time, more spirit energy and more spirit energy. During the drawing process, the probability of mistakes was also higher. He used ordinary brush, ink, paper and inkstone to practice drawing grade 2 talismans until he could draw grade 2 talismans in one go. Only then did he officially begin to refine grade 2 talismans. The first talisman he refined was the Golden Saber talisman. He had a ready-made Golden Saber talisman in his hand that could be used as a reference to increase his success rate. The specific refining method was similar to that of the inferior grade 1 talismans. While drawing the talismans, one's spirit energy and spirit energy were injected into the talismans according to the ratio. Whether it was his spirit energy or spirit energy, they were all very satisfied. The materials were also top-notch. Coupled with his rich experience in making talismans, he only failed 3 times. On the 4th try, he successfully refined a low-grade grade 2 golden knife talisman. It took him a day to refine 3 golden knife talismans after consuming 10 talismans. He had reached the minimum standard of a low-grade grade 2 talisman master. With Wang Daoyuan's strength, he could refine more than 30 high-grade grade 1 talismans in a day without affecting the success rate. However, if he refined 10 low-grade grade 2 talismans in a day, he would feel that his spirit energy was overdrawn. Continuing to refine talismans would seriously affect the success rate. Half a year had passed in the outside world. 10 years had passed in the space of the spiritual pearl. In these 10 years, the space of the spiritual pearl had undergone tremendous changes. Yunyi had grown more than 5 feet long. When it stood up, it was as tall as a person. Its cultivation had also reached the middle grade of the first stage. The cloud patterns on its shoulders could already transform into wings. Currently, it was practicing flying. Wang Daoyuan was not very good at naming, so he named the little Yunyi after its species. As Yunyi grew up drinking rabbit milk, it never preyed on long-eared rabbits. However, it never refused the rabbit meat roasted by his clone and ate the most. With the addition of Yunyi, the number of long-eared rabbits was controlled. It never exceeded 300. The jade-bone phoenix-tailed pheasants had also multiplied to 40 to 50. Wang Daoyuan also often cooked beggar's chicken. The golden silk spirit jujube tree had finally bloomed. In a few years he should be able to eat golden silk spirit jujubes. The jasper watermelon was everywhere in the fiery sunwood and mulberry forest. Even if he ate it with his clone, he couldn't finish it. He had no choice but to feed it to the rabbits and chickens. The ground in the spiritual forest was empty. It was better to plant watermelons. Therefore, he didn't deliberately control the planting area of the jasper watermelon. The soul-forbidding silkworms had yet to start spinning cocoons, but the mulberry trees had already matured. The mulberry trees that had grown from old branches were already more than 30 feet tall. They had also reached the peak of a high-grade stage 1 spiritual plant. They only needed an opportunity to become a stage 2 spiritual plant. His clone often chopped down branches to provide nutrients for the snow Ganoderma. In order to be safer when he went out to search for Fays in the future, he ordered the soul-chasing Wasp King to nurture a new Wasp King. The leaves of the 5 plants that were suspected to be the black jade lotus were full of puddles, but they didn't bloom. Wang Daoyuan didn't expect them to bloom and produce lotus seeds. What gave him a headache wasn't just the pond of lotus leaves, but also the hidden cloud tea. Ever since this tea tree was transplanted into the space, it was half dead. It neither withered nor grew. Its leaves were a little withered, but they were still alive. Chapter 109. Wang Daoyuan brewed a cup of hidden cloud tea to recover the divine sense he had used to refine the talisman. The hidden cloud tea was indeed very effective. After drinking a cup of tea, it only took an hour for his divine sense to recover to 70% or 80%. In addition, the hidden cloud tea had the effect of removing impurities in a cultivator's body. It also had a certain cleansing effect on pill toxins, but it needed to be drunk often to have a significant effect. Before his divine sense had fully recovered, he heard someone calling for little brother Zhao outside the shop. He used his divine sense to explore outside and found that it was Gao Yuan standing at the door with an old cultivator. He closed the shop's formation and went from the backyard to the front of the shop. He opened the door and invited the 2 people inside. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "May I know why Senior Gao is here?" Gao Yuan smiled and said, "Little friend Zhao, is your grandfather here? I have a big business to do with him." Wang Daoyuan replied, "He went to Clear Glass Market, so I'm in charge of the shop. May I know what kind of big business it is?" Gao Yuan smiled mysteriously and gave the old cultivator beside her a look, saying, "This business is too big. I'm afraid little friend Zhao can't make the decision." The rogue cultivator took out a rod-shaped object as thick as a wrist and put it on the counter in front of Wang Daoyuan. The object was wrapped in a layer of silk woven from spirit silk. Wang Daoyuan first used his divine sense to scan it and said, "This thing is even poisonous to burn charcoal. What's the use of it? It's not even worth half a spirit stone." Gao Yuan was anxious. Little friend Zhao, look carefully. This is the dragon crouching vine, one of the 3 main ingredients of the foundation building pill. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Senior Gao, are you bullying me because I'm young and ignorant? Who would dare to use a 500-year-old dragon crouching vine to refine the foundation building pill? This dragon crouching vine has been dead for a long time and can't be planted. Other than poison cultivators who use it to refine poison, who would want this thing? Poison cultivators are rare, and my grandfather doesn't have such wide connections." Gao Yuan was speechless. The old cultivator took out a fist-sized silk bag and said with a smile, "How about this?" Wang Daoyuan used his divine sense to explore and found that it was a few leaves of the dragon crouching vine. They were still fresh and should have been picked not long ago. Interesting indeed. But why didn't Dao Yu bring back a living vine when he had the time to pick up withered vines and leaves? Even if it's a dead vine, it has to be around 200 years old to sell for money. Wang Daoyuan asked. The old cultivator smiled wryly. Dao Yu should know that the dragon crouching vine is highly toxic. I wasn't prepared beforehand and didn't know much about the dragon crouching vine's toxicity, so I didn't dare to touch it. There are still demonic beasts nearby, and cutting down the vines would cause too much of a ruckus. I can only pick up some things and see if I can sell them for some spirit stones. Wang Daoyuan replied calmly, "It's a pity that these things aren't worth much. I can't use spirit stones to buy things that are useless and poisonous." The old cultivator smiled wryly and didn't know what to say. Gao Yuan tried to smooth things over. "Little friend Zhao, please give me some face. This Dao Yu went through a lot of trouble to come here. If you really can't do it, just ask him to tell us where he found the dragon crouching vine." Wang Daoyuan couldn't refuse. Gao Yuan was an important business partner of his. Brokers relied on their connections to make a living, and connections were simply face. Only when others recognized your face would you have connections. If Gao Yuan wanted to talk about face, he really couldn't not do this business. Otherwise he would offend people. Wang Daoyuan said helplessly, "Since Senior Gao has said so, I don't dare to embarrass you. How about 100 spirit stones for this pile of things and the information about the dragon crouching vine?" The old cultivator smiled and told them the location of the dragon crouching vine. He took the 100 spirit stones and ran out of the shop. Gao Yuan said a few more words of thanks to him and left as well. Wang Daoyuan put the pile of things into an empty storage bag and threw it into the space of his spiritual pearl. Then he began to think about whether he should go look for the dragon crouching vine. Gao Yuan knew that the things the old cultivator brought were worthless, but she still introduced him and didn't hesitate to lose face. It was obvious that she wanted to tell him the information about the dragon crouching vine. Without a doubt, this was a trap that Gao Yuan had dug for him. It might be the martial arts test that was half a year late. But he couldn't bear to not go. The location the old cultivator revealed was in the southeast direction of the 100 River Lake, deep in the mountains more than 50 kilometers away. The dragon crouching vine had indeed appeared in that area before and more than once. Bait was necessary to catch a big fish. The information about the dragon crouching vine was most likely true. Gao Yuan, this old fellow, was really cunning. He had set up an open trap for him. This bait was one of the main ingredients of the Foundation establishment pill. There was too much bait. Even though he knew it was fishing, he still couldn't help but want to take the bait. After weighing the pros and cons, Wang Daoyuan still decided to go. With his aptitude, Foundation establishment wasn't something that could be solved with a Foundation establishment pill. There wasn't much hope for him to rely on buying Foundation establishment pills. He had to be prepared. He had to search for the spirit herbs and refine the Foundation establishment pill himself. The main ingredient was right in front of him. If he missed it, he didn't know when he would have to wait for the next time. Since he was going to step on a trap, he naturally had to be prepared. If he didn't jump in, the trap wouldn't be removed in a short time and the bait would naturally be placed there. During this time he would refine more low-grade level 2 spirit talismans. He harvested another 100 purple gold grass and made them all into talisman paper. A total of more than 400 low-grade level 1 talisman papers were all refined into low-grade level 2 spirit talismans. According to the 30% success rate, there were more than 120 low-grade level 2 spirit talismans. If Gao Yuan wanted to test him, she couldn't mobilize Foundation establishment cultivators. Qi refinement cultivators weren't much of a threat to him. Instead, the biggest threat was the demon beast. Gao Yuan might play tricks and lure the level 2 demon beasts to attack him. Against low-grade level 2 or even mid-grade demon beasts, low-grade level 2 spirit talismans still had some effect. Unless he encountered a level 2 flying beast that was fast and could fly high into the sky to avoid attacks. However, if he encountered a flying beast, he could also escape through the ground. He had never heard of any flying beast that could escape through the ground. Furthermore, even if he encountered a demon beast, it would at most want to eat him. When it realized that it wasn't easy to take him down, it would give up. It wasn't like he had killed his father and wouldn't chase after him with his life. The Golden Rock Phantom that he condensed using the Golden Rock Wrestling Dragon technique had a wingspan of more than 10 feet. The 5 consecutive whips could reach the level of 1 whip in half a breath. These could threaten the lives of low-grade level 2 demon beasts. Against ordinary low-grade level 2 demon beasts, he still had the strength to fight. If he had a low-grade level 2 spirit talisman, he still had a chance of winning. Although the chances were slim, at least he wouldn't be killed easily. As for demon beasts with higher cultivation, they wouldn't be interested in a late-stage Qi refinement ant. Just like a mouse that ran into a cat's territory, it might be attacked. But if it ran into a tiger's territory, the tiger wouldn't even look at it. Furthermore, Wang Daoyuan disguised himself as Zhao Yunxing and didn't expose too much of his combat strength. Gao Yuan might not know that he killed Zheng Kong, and Zheng Kong himself was also disguised as a level 8 Qi refinement cultivator. Therefore, Gao Yuan's understanding of his strength was at most level 9 Qi refinement to the peak of Qi refinement. If he wanted to set up a trap to deal with him, he would also target this strength. All in all, if he went to find the dragon crouching vine, the danger he would encounter would at most be low-grade level 2 demon beasts. Chapter 110. In the following days, Wang Daoyuan's main task was to refine level 2 spirit talismans. He relied on drinking hidden cloud tea to recover his divine sense and increased the number of spirit talismans he could refine from 10 to 15 per day. After more than 20 days, all 410 talisman papers were used up, and 145 talismans were made. His success rate was 35%. After preparing the spirit talismans, He adjusted his body to its peak state. After making all the preparations, it was time to look for the dragon crouching vine. He didn't find a few itinerant cultivators to go with him. With Gao Yuan's background, even if he did find itinerant cultivators, most of them would be people planted by Gao Yuan. When he encountered danger, not only would he have to face the enemy, but he would also have to guard against his companions. It was better to fight alone. He left the shop and took a boat to the southeast corner of Hundred Rivers Lake at a pier at the southern end of Green Willow Island. 4 hours later, the spirit ship docked at a pier at the southeast side of the lake. This pier was quite lively and there were some street stalls. These stall owners didn't get anything good and were unwilling to spend spirit stones to take the boat to Green Willow Island, so they sold their things at the pier. Most of the things on the street stalls weren't worth many spirit stones. He didn't want to waste time here, so he headed straight to the southeast. A stall owner called out to him and asked, "Daoyu, is this your first time entering the mountain? You're going the wrong way." This piqued Wang Daoyuan's interest. He asked, "May I know which way I'm going the wrong way?" Hearing his reply, the stall owner said with a smile, "All the cultivators who enter the mountain from here either go south or east. No one goes straight to the southeast." Wang Daoyuan asked curiously, "May I know why?" The stall owner pointed to a mountain in the southeast direction and answered, "This mountain is called Black Cloud Mountain. There's a pack of black cloud wolves on it, and the Wolf King is a level 2 low-grade demonic beast. Moreover, this Wolf King is very extraordinary. It's said that it has the bloodline of a high-level demonic beast or some fortuitous opportunity. It's not to be trifled with. Even Foundation establishment seniors don't dare to provoke a pack of black cloud wolves with a level 2 Wolf King. Daoyu is only at the 7th level of Qi refinement. Isn't he courting death if he goes in?" The stall owner took out a piece of animal skin and said with a smile, "I have a detailed map of the east side of the Baichuan Lake. It only costs 100 spirit stones." Zhao Baoguo was in the Green Willow continent, mainly going back and forth to Qingli City. He had never gone east. Wang Daoyuan was unfamiliar with this place, so he really needed this map. After some haggling, he finally bought the map for 30 spirit stones. This map was quite detailed. It recorded the various danger zones within 500 miles east of the Hundred River Lake, as well as the various demonic beasts and precious spiritual items that occupied these danger zones. The place where the dragon crouching vine was located was called the Poison Dragon Valley. It was more than 150 kilometers away from the eastern shore of the Hundred River Lake. In the past few hundred years, 5 to 6 cultivators had found the dragon crouching vine in the Poison Dragon Valley. Going directly to the Poison Dragon Valley would require crossing the Black Cloud Mountain. That would be courting death. Other than the Black Cloud Mountain, he could also head east. There were many demonic beasts along the way, but the threat was not as great as the Black Cloud Wolves. However, he would need to walk more than 150 kilometers to reach the Poison Dragon Valley. Although going east would double the distance and the probability of accidents would be higher, there were no accidents bigger than the Black Cloud Wolves in this area. He left the pier and headed due east. In the space of the Spirit Pearl, the newly cultivated soul-chasing bee king had already grown up and completed the master recognition process. It also had more than 100 worker bees. He put the new bee colony into a spirit beast bag and took out the space of the Spirit Pearl. He released dozens of soul-chasing bees to open up a path in front and guard the left and right sides. As long as the soul-chasing bees were in danger or even dead, the bee king would sense it and immediately inform him. This method of scouting was much faster than releasing the bees to scout and then returning to report. For safety reasons, he used the breath concealment technique and invisibility technique at the same time. After that, he used a first-grade high-grade spirit travel talisman. Using 2 spells at the same time already consumed a lot of his spiritual sense. If he used the spirit travel talisman, it would be easy to lose control of his spiritual sense. He used the bee king to guide the soul-chasing bees and let them keep the same speed as him. Wang Daoyuan followed the soul-chasing bees for more than 5 kilometers. This way, even if he encountered danger, he would have enough time to escape. The soul-chasing bees were more sensitive to spiritual objects. If there were demonic beasts, spiritual insects, and the like nearby, they could discover them from afar. He only let them lead the way and not look for spiritual objects, so the losses were reduced a lot. With the soul-chasing bees scouting the way, he avoided more than 20 dangerous places along the way. He only encountered 4 or 5 demonic beasts. Most of these demonic beasts did not like to fight. Seeing that Wang Daoyuan was just passing by, they did not attack. Only a first-grade mid-grade wild boar dashed out of the bushes to attack him. He subdued it with one move and threw it into the space of the Spirit Pearl to feed Yunyi. At this time, Yuni had already learned how to fly and her body was a little bigger. Unfortunately, the space of the spirit pearl was still too small for her. The highest point of the hemispherical space was only about 60 meters. It was not enough for her to play around. Being in the oasis, there were dangers everywhere. Wang Daoyuan did not dare to let her out. Along the way he was scared but not in danger. In less than 4 hours he successfully reached the Poison Dragon Valley. After entering the Poison Dragon Valley, he understood why this place was called that. Not to mention the poisonous snakes everywhere, even the air was colorful. He did not take out the antidote pills he had on him to embarrass himself. He directly used an earth armor talisman to protect his body and prevent the poisonous gas from getting close. As soon as the earthy yellow armor appeared, he heard the sizzling sound of corrosion. He wanted the soul-chasing bees to help find the specific location of the dragon crouching vine, but they did not dare to enter the Poison Dragon Valley. He had no choice but to put away the soul-chasing bees and slowly search according to the location described by the old cultivator. After an hour of searching, he finally found the dragon crouching vine. Wang Daoyuan had the urge to cry. He finally found it. In this hour he used more than 20 earth armor talismans and avoided dozens of poisonous snakes blocking the way. There were more than a dozen dragon crouching vines in this place. Most of them were hundreds of years old and were useless. There were also 2 vines that were around 100 years old. There were not even 200 years old. Clearly, someone had picked the ones of suitable age. They really did not want to give him any advantage. His target was not the 100-year-old dragon crouching vine, but the few seedlings next to it. The dragon crouching vine was very poisonous. It would take effect when it saw blood. Moreover, the dragon crouching vine had developed roots. It would cause too much of a commotion if he dug the roots. There was a layer of fine thorns on the surface. Once touched, it would definitely break the skin. He had to admit that the old cultivator who told him the news was a bit bold. He wrapped it in silk and dared to touch it with his hands. His target was the few young vines. The roots were shallow, so it was easier to dig the roots. The young vines were less poisonous and the thorns were not hard enough. It was relatively safe. Moreover, it was easier for the young vines to survive. He used the golden sword technique to cut off the young vines, leaving only a small section near the roots. It was fine as long as there were new buds. This way he could avoid injuring himself during the transplant and save more effort during the process. After transplanting the 3 seedlings, he changed his target to an old vine. This old vine was 500 to 600 years old. It was impossible to refine pills. However, there were a few dried fruits hanging on this old vine. There should be a lot of seeds in the fruits. He did not know how long it would take for the 3 young vines to bear fruit. If he wanted to expand the planting scale, he would need seeds. He carefully walked over and carefully observed the surroundings to see if there were any poisonous snakes lying in ambush. After confirming that it was safe, he used the golden sword technique to cut off a few fruits. Then he used the mystic yang sword to pull them out of the dragon crouching vine and put them into the space of the spirit pearl. The whole process was very smooth, but he did not notice the abnormality here. The soil in the other parts of the Poison Dragon Valley was black. Only the soil near the roots of the dragon crouching vine was dark red. Chapter 111. In this place where the air was colorful, it was not strange for the soil to be dark red. After successfully harvesting the seeds and transplanting a few young vines, his goal was successfully achieved. The next step was naturally to return home. He followed the original path and quickly ran out of the Poison Dragon Valley. Along the way there were a few rank 1 poisonous snakes blocking his way. He did not dare to kill them casually as there were rank 2 poisonous snakes in the Poison Dragon Valley. The rank 2 poisonous snakes either did not notice him or did not put him in their eyes. But if he killed the poisonous snakes, the smell of blood would spread and he would definitely be exposed. Furthermore, this was considered a provocation to the rank 2 poisonous snakes. His goal was to leave this damned place and it was not worthwhile to go against the poisonous snakes. After taking a few detours, he finally succeeded in leaving the Poison Dragon Valley. Things went so smoothly that he did not dare to believe it. Before coming, he speculated that it was Gao Yuan who set a trap for him. This trip was not considered to be a mountain of blades and a sea of flames, but there should be some difficulties and obstacles, right? He had painstakingly prepared more than 100 low-grade rank 2 spirit talismans and had not touched a single one until now. Could it be that he had been fighting with the air? After leaving the Poison Dragon Valley with doubts, Wang Daoyuan once again released the soul-chasing bees to pave the way and returned to the 100 Rivers Lake. After traveling for more than 50 kilometers, the Black Cloud Mountain was very close to him and was about 15 kilometers in front of him. Suddenly, the soul-chasing bees in the spirit beast pouch at his waist reported to him that the few soul-chasing bees in front of him had been exterminated. He made a prompt decision and ordered the scouting soul-chasing bees to change their direction from northwest to north and released more than 10 soul-chasing bees to make up for the losses. Before the scouting soul-chasing bees could change their direction, a mournful wolf howl sounded from the south. Soon after, wolf howls sounded from the north and west. He seemed to be surrounded by a pack of wolves from 3 sides. His only way out was to the east, which was the direction of the sky/mountain range's main vein. The further east he went, the denser the spirit chi was and the higher the rank of the demonic beasts. The rogue cultivators of the oasis would go at most 250 kilometers in the east. It was said that if he continued to go east, rank 2 demonic beasts would be everywhere and rank 3 demonic beasts would be very common. Usually no rogue cultivator would be willing to go there, but Wang Daoyuan had no choice at this time. The wolf pack of Black Cloud Mountain had a wolf king. If one was entangled by this pack of wolves, even a foundation establishment cultivator would find it difficult to escape. If they didn't go east, they would die without a doubt. If they went east, there was still a way out. He didn't have time to recall the soul-chasing bees, so he had to release more than 50 of them to lead the way to the east. Wang Daoyuan no longer used a Tier 1 talisman. Instead, he directly used a Tier 2 low-grade Spirit Strider talisman that he had just refined. He ordered the soul-chasing bees to advance at full speed while he followed closely behind. Although he still had a mid-grade Tier 2 Divine Strider talisman, after using it, his speed was even faster than the soul-chasing wasp. The soul-chasing bee could no longer scout ahead. It could only barge its way through the demonic beasts. In such a situation, it would be the same as if he had turned around and fought the dark cloud wolves to the death. Death was inevitable. The only difference was whether he would die heroically or in a cowardly manner. Apart from the Wolf King, the rest of the dark cloud wolves were only rank 1 upper-grade demonic beasts. After Wang Daoyuan used the Tier 2 Divine Strider talisman, he quickly left the dark cloud wolves more than 5 kilometers behind. He didn't let his guard down and continued to run east. After an hour, he could no longer hear the howls of the dark cloud wolves. He heaved a sigh of relief. He had finally left the wolves behind. He took out the map and compared it. He found that he was now more than 400 kilometers away from the 100 Rivers Lake. Fortunately, he had left the dark cloud wolves behind. If he continued to move forward, he would enter the legendary place where rank 2 demonic beasts were everywhere. Although he didn't encounter any demonic beasts after running for a few hundred kilometers, it wasn't easy either. The newly bred Wasp King and the worker bees under it were all dead. He could only put the new Wasp King back into the Spirit Pearl space and put the old Wasp King and more than 1,000 worker bees into the Spirit Beast pouch to scout ahead. After running for a few hundred kilometers, he had lost more than 500 soul-chasing bees. This was the result of the soul-chasing bees being sensitive to spirit beasts and being able to avoid them in advance. Since he had escaped from the encirclement, he couldn't continue to head east. He ordered the soul-chasing bees to head north at full speed while he continued to use the low-grade level 2 spirit travel talisman to follow behind. After 15 minutes, the Wasp King warned that the soul-chasing bees in front of him were all dead. Moreover, it took less than 3 breaths of time for the soul-chasing bees to be killed after being attacked. Wang Daoyuan felt his hair stand on end. The soul-chasing bees were scouting ahead and flying in a scattered manner. Either there was a group of demonic beasts lying in ambush ahead, or there was a rank 2 demonic beast. Otherwise, it was impossible to kill all the soul-chasing bees so quickly. He was about to continue running east when he saw a dark cloud wolf coming from 3 kilometers north. The dark cloud wolf was extremely fast. It was much faster than Wang Daoyuan using the low-grade level 2 spirit travel talisman. To be able to run so fast, it was definitely a rank 2 demonic beast. This should be the Wasp King of the dark cloud wolves. At this time, there was no hope of escaping unless he used the mid-grade level 2 spirit travel talisman. However, he couldn't use the soul-chasing bees to scout ahead. It would be easy to bump into a rank 2 demonic beast's nest and be killed by other rank 2 demonic beasts. Rather than die without knowing why, he might as well fight to the death with this dark cloud wolf. If he used all his means, he might be able to severely injure this dark cloud wolf. He immediately activated 5 low-grade level 2 earth armor talismans and kept the jade pendant on him, ready to be activated at any time. At this time, the dark cloud wolf was still more than a kilometer away from him. He immediately began to use the Golden Rock Wrestling Dragon technique to form the Golden Rock Phantom. At this time, he only had the feather blades and the soul-extinguishing bell that could severely injure the Wolf King. Once the soul-extinguishing bell rang, a rank 2 demonic beast would definitely come over. It wasn't impossible to attract a rank 3 demonic beast. He couldn't be careless until the last moment. Therefore he could only use the Golden Rock Wrestling Dragon technique. After more than half a year of hard work, the Golden Rock Phantom he formed had a wingspan of 12 feet. He could form 200 golden feathers at once, and the time needed to form the Golden Rock Phantom had also been reduced to about 3 breaths. When he used the Golden Rock Wrestling Dragon technique now, its power had already surpassed Zheng Kang's. When the Golden Rock Phantom had just formed, the Wolf King was already more than 10 feet away from him. The Wolf King looked at the Golden Rock Phantom with some fear in its eyes. It turned to look at Wang Daoyuan's feet, and its eyes were filled with hatred and a desire to kill. "Awu!" the Wolf King howled at the sky. Then more than 10 beast roars came from the surroundings. These roars were very intimidating and made Wang Daoyuan tremble with fear. They should be the roars of rank 2 demonic beasts. The Wolf King roared again and the other demonic beasts didn't respond. No demonic beasts came over. Wang Daoyuan guessed that the Wolf King's roar must have alerted the surrounding rank 2 demonic beasts and made them question the Wolf King's purpose. After the Wolf King explained, the other rank 2 demonic beasts ignored it. It stared at Wang Daoyuan's feet and suddenly pounced at him. Wang Daoyuan controlled the Golden Rock Phantom to block it. The Wolf King and the Golden Rock collided and bit each other a few times, then retreated. Although he didn't directly fight the Wolf King and didn't feel any pain, he still had to bear the force of the collision between the Wolf King and the Golden Rock. Although he didn't appear to be at a disadvantage in this exchange, his blood and chi were surging inside his body, and the Golden Rock Phantom had become much dimmer. Chapter 112. After 2 more collisions like this, the Golden Rock shadow would probably collapse. Although the Wolf King was scratched a few times by the Golden Rock, they were all superficial wounds and were not serious. Wang Daoyuan immediately increased the output of spiritual power and restored the Golden Rock's shadow to its original state. But if this continues, his spiritual power will not be able to bear it. He can't fight the Wolf King head-on anymore. He must pull away and attack it with the feather blade. The Wolf King adjusted for a while and pounced on him again. This time he didn't control the Golden Rock's shadow to fight the Wolf King head-on. Instead he let the Golden Rock send a feather blade at him, and then used the cloud escape to quickly dodge and threw a golden knife talisman. The Wolf King rushed to the place where he was before, and the feather blade and the golden knife just arrived. If it was a rank 1 monster, the battle would be over. But the Wolf King is a rank 2 monster, its speed and flexibility are not comparable to a rank 1 monster. As soon as it landed, it immediately dodged and successfully avoided the attack of the golden knife, but the feather blade was not easy to dodge. After more than half a year of practice, Wang Daoyuan's feather blade has surpassed the power of the golden sword technique, and the spiritual power consumption is only 60% of the golden sword technique. Although there is still a big gap between the power and the golden sword technique, the speed is much faster. The feather blade flew, and the Wolf King couldn't completely avoid it and was scratched by the feather blade. The feather blade left a half-foot-long wound on the side of the Wolf King's body, but the wound was very shallow and not on the limbs, so it didn't affect the Wolf King much. In this confrontation, Wang Daoyuan had to use 2 spells at the same time, plus the golden knife talisman, but he only had a slight advantage. The Wolf King only suffered a little flesh wound, and the spiritual power consumption was very little. He didn't think that he could ignore the Wolf King's strength just because he could fight back and forth with it. Rank 2 monsters have innate spells. According to the rogue cultivator who sold him the map, this Wolf King is not an ordinary rank 2 monster. Its innate spells should not be weak. And the Wolf King is only using its physical strength to deal with him, its innate spells have not been used yet. The Wolf King suffered a small loss and no longer fought head-on. It began to run around Wang Daoyuan, waiting for him to reveal a flaw and then strike. Every time he had to rely on the cloud mist escape to avoid it. Sometimes he would counterattack with the golden knife talisman or the feather blade, but the Wolf King kept running, and his hit rate was terrible. The man and the wolf exchanged blows more than 10 times, but Wang Daoyuan only managed to hit the Wolf King 3 times, and they were all superficial wounds. From the start of the fight until now, although Wang Daoyuan was not injured at all, he had already used up about 40% of his spiritual energy. In addition, the consumption of his spiritual energy was not small. While maintaining the Golden Rock Phantom, he also had to frequently use the Cloud Mist Escape. Using 2 extremely advanced spells at the same time required more spiritual sense power to control the circulation of the spiritual power in his body. The Wolf King, on the other hand, relied entirely on his physical strength and did not consume much spiritual energy. With the physique of a rank 2 monster beast, even if it was a high-intensity battle, it would not be a problem for Wang Daoyuan to fight for a day or two. He maintained the golden rock's illusory image and couldn't use his cultivation technique to recover his spiritual power. Besides, the Wolf King's strength was far above his, so he didn't dare to be distracted. Taking advantage of the Wolf King's adjustment, he took out a jar of 40-year-old scarlet blood wine, drank a few mouthfuls and then quickly put it away. The Wolf King smelled the scarlet blood wine and the rich spiritual energy. Knowing that this human was recovering his spiritual power, it pounced again. This time Wang Daoyuan was distracted and couldn't completely dodge using the cloud mist escape, so he took a claw from the Wolf King. 2 layers of the earth armor technique were instantly broken, and the 3rd layer was also much dimmer. The power of this claw also sent him flying 4 to 5 feet away. After landing, he felt a burning sensation in his chest and spat out a mouthful of blood. He stood up and stuck 5 more earth armor talismans on his body. This time the injury wasn't too serious, and he also took the opportunity to recover a lot of spiritual power. Overall, this battle was not a loss. But the Wolf King's strength was indeed a bit scary. It was not a direct collision, but a claw could still break 2 layers of the earth armor talisman. This was a rank 2 lower grade talisman, not something a rank 1 talisman could compare to. If this claw had landed on his body, the battle would probably have ended immediately. In terms of physical strength, this Wolf King could be considered an expert among rank 2 lower grade spirit beasts. The Wolf King didn't give him a chance to catch his breath after its successful attack, and pounced again. Wang Daoyuan also immediately used the cloud mist escape to dodge. He also controlled the golden rock phantom to release 2 feather blades and threw out 3 golden saber talismans. This time he didn't get distracted and successfully dodged the Wolf King's attack. The Wolf King couldn't dodge easily. Even though it was nimble, its body was more than 3 feet long, making it too big of a target. The 5 attacks came from 2 directions, so it was difficult to dodge all of them. The Wolf King's intelligence wasn't low. It used all its strength to dodge the 3 golden sabers and take the 2 feather blades head-on. The golden sabers were rank 2 lower grade talismans. Once hit, even if its physical body was strong, it would still be heavily injured. As for the feather blades, they were only slightly stronger than the golden sword technique. As long as it didn't hit a vital point, it would be very difficult to heavily injure it. The Wolf King dodged the 3 golden sabers, but its 2 front legs were scratched by the feather blades. Although the injury wasn't serious, it had some effect on its speed. As a result, the Wolf King's pouncing speed and dodging speed slowed down, reducing the pressure on him. With the situation changed, Wang Daoyuan also changed his tactics. He directly brought his clone Zhao Baogua out of the Spirit Pearl space and handed him the 5 Dragon Soul Chasing Whip. Although Zhao Baogua had been refined into a clone, his cultivation was still there. He could use the 5 Dragon Soul Chasing Whip better than Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan had to maintain the Golden Rock Phantom and use the Cloud Mist Escape from time to time, so he didn't have time to use the 5 Dragon Soul Chasing Whip. Now that Zhao Baogua had been refined into a clone, he was telepathically connected with Wang Daoyuan. When the two worked together, their strength had more than doubled. With one more person suddenly on the battlefield, the Wolf King didn't know what to do. It first pounced on Zhao Baogua to test his strength. Although Zhao Baogua couldn't use the Cloud Mist Escape, he could still use the Spirit Walking technique. The Wolf King's 2 front legs were injured, so its speed was much slower. Zhao Baogua used the Spirit Walking technique to barely dodge the attack. How could Wang Daoyuan let the Wolf King attack? He urged the Golden Rock Phantom to shoot out 5 feathered blades. Zhao Baogua also lashed out with his whip. The Wolf King immediately dodged, but it was still scratched by 2 feathers. Zhao Baogua used the 5 Dragon Soul Chasing Whip. Its power was much greater than Wang Daoyuan's, and its speed was also much faster. It lashed out at the Wolf King's head. The whip's power was comparable to a feather's, leaving a bloody mark on the Wolf King's face. The Wolf King adjusted itself and pounced on Wang Daoyuan again. Wang Daoyuan immediately used the Cloud Mist Escape to dodge the attack and counterattacked with a feather. Zhao Baogua also lashed out with his whip. The Wolf King suffered another whip and a feather. The situation on the battlefield was completely reversed. From the Wolf King suppressing Wang Daoyuan, it became Wang Daoyuan and his clone suppressing the Wolf King. The Wolf King's spirit energy consumption wasn't great, but there were more than 10 wounds on its body. Although the wounds weren't deep, they were still bleeding. No matter how strong the Wolf King was, it was still a living creature. If it lost too much blood, it wouldn't be able to hold on. Seeing that it couldn't win, the Wolf King roared at the sky. More than 5 kilometers away, several wolf howls echoed in response. When Wang Daoyuan heard the wolf howls in the distance, he knew it was bad. The wolf pack had caught up. Chapter 113. Even Foundation establishment cultivators did not dare to touch a pack of black cloud wolves. They were not afraid of the Wolf King but the entire pack. Once surrounded by a pack of first-rank high-grade black cloud wolves led by the Wolf King, a Foundation establishment cultivator would not be able to withstand it at all. If one wanted to escape on their sword, they would not be afraid of the black cloud wolves after flying. But before he could fly, the Wolf King would not just stand by and watch. If a Foundation establishment cultivator wanted to fly away on his sword, the Wolf King would pounce on him. The Foundation establishment cultivator would either have to give up on his sword and defend against the Wolf King's attack, or face the Wolf King's attack head-on. Even a Foundation establishment cultivator would not dare to face a pack of wolves head-on, not to mention Wang Daoyuan and his clone, 2 late-stage Qi refinement cultivators. Wang Daoyuan did not say anything and used a second-rank low-grade spirit travel talisman, turning his head and running north. His clone was connected to his mind and also used a spirit travel talisman to follow behind Wang Daoyuan. The Wolf King had suffered so many injuries, how could it let them escape so easily? It used all its spirit energy to chase after the two. The Wolf King's spirit energy was not only used on its legs. A large mass of pure spirit energy was condensed in its mouth, and the spirit energy fluctuations were getting stronger and stronger. When it was only 2 feet away from Wang Daoyuan, it spat out a mass of spirit energy. The mass of spirit energy was shaped like a full moon, emitting a dangerous aura. Wang Daoyuan had already expected that the Wolf King would not give up so easily, so he did not withdraw the Golden Rock's Phantom and continued to follow him. At this moment, Wang Daoyuan controlled the Golden Rock's Phantom and shot out all its feather blades. He estimated that it was not possible to block the Wolf King's attack with just the feather blades, so he also controlled the Golden Rock's Phantom to pounce forward. Nearly 200 feather blades and the Golden Rock's Phantom collided with the full moon spat out by the Wolf King. The full moon exploded into pieces, and the feather blades and the Golden Rock also shattered into a golden rain. When the shock wave erupted, Wang Daoyuan immediately used Cloud Mist Escape and instantly escaped more than 10 feet away. In this collision of spells, the Wolf King still had the upper hand. The aftermath of the explosion was mainly aimed at Wang Daoyuan. Even though he had fled more than 30 meters away, he was still affected by the shock wave, and a layer of the Earth Armor Talisman on his body was pierced through. The shock wave worsened Wang Daoyuan's internal injuries, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The doppelganger did not know how to use the Cloud Mist Escape, so it immediately used the Earth Escape technique to avoid the shockwave. The reason why Wang Daoyuan did not use the Earth Escape technique in the beginning was mainly because the Earth Escape technique was too slow. Moreover, with the divine sense of a rank 2 demonic beast, it would be able to discover if someone was underground nearby. Once the wolf pack caught up to him, unless he stayed underground for the rest of his life, he would be heavily surrounded the moment he came up. Moreover, the outer area of the Heavenly/Mountain Range was filled with danger everywhere. He could not release the soul-chasing bees underground to open up a path. If he were to encounter a demonic beast that resided underground, he would definitely die. Wang Daoyuan and his doppelganger managed to dodge the shockwave, but the Wolf King wasn't so lucky. It was heading straight for the shockwave. He was only 20 to 30 feet away from the center of the explosion, but the shockwave sent him flying 50 to 60 feet away. However, because the Wolf King's spell had the upper hand, the shockwave in its direction was much weaker. After landing, it only spat out a mouthful of blood, roared angrily, and continued to chase. When fleeing for his life, the doppelganger would not be of any use and would even become a burden. Wang Daoyuan recalled his doppelganger and released the soul-chasing bees to open up a path in front of him. He continued to advance in the north direction. The Wolf King was not willing to give up. It circulated its spirit energy and continued to chase after Wang Daoyuan. The Wolf King had many injuries on its body, especially the injuries on its 2 front legs, which seriously affected its speed. At this time, the Wolf King's speed was only slightly faster than when Wang Daoyuan used the Divine Travel Talisman. Every time the Wolf King ran a certain distance, it would raise its head and howl. The surrounding rank 2 demonic beasts were all alarmed. It was impossible for Wang Daoyuan to sneak over quietly. Helpless, he could only constantly change his direction to avoid the rank 2 demonic beast. He was originally heading north, but after changing directions many times, he was heading northeast. The Wolf King's speed was slightly faster than him. After running for a while, it closed the distance between it and Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan threw out 1 or 2 golden saber talismans, and the Wolf King had no choice but to dodge. The distance between the man and the wolf was pulled apart again. Although the Wolf King could not catch up to him for the time being, he did not dare to run so recklessly. If he continued east, he would be 500 miles away from the 100 Rivers Lake. That was an unexplored area. Without knowing the depth, he would die if he rashly entered. He had no choice but to send a voice transmission to the Wolf King. "Wolf King, I have no enmity with you. Why are you chasing me?" As a rank 2 demonic beast, the Wolf King also knew how to send a voice transmission. It replied, "You killed my son, and you still dare to say that you have no enmity with me?" Wang Daoyuan cursed, "Bullshit. Before you I had never seen a black cloud wolf. When did I kill your son?" The Wolf King replied, "Your shoes have the smell of my son and the smell of blood." Wang Daoyuan recalled his experience along the way. He had been paying attention to his feet and did not touch the black cloud wolf's corpse. He sent a voice transmission, "I went to the Poison Dragon Valley once. I might have stepped on it there. I have never seen your son." The Wolf King did not believe him at all. "Humans are cunning and only know how to lie. You killed my son. I will kill you to avenge him." When a scholar meets a soldier, it is impossible to reason with him. The black cloud wolf did not listen to his explanation. Wang Daoyuan had no choice but to continue running forward. Once he stopped, the black cloud wolf pack would quickly catch up. Wang Daoyuan used all his strength to use the feather blade and controlled the golden rock phantom to resist the full moon spat out by the Wolf King. He only had 20 to 30% of his spiritual energy left. He took out the aged scarlet blood wine and drank a few mouthfuls to recover his spiritual energy. He thought to himself, "It seems that I have no choice but to enter the unknown area today. Before that, I should recover my spiritual energy and divine sense first." He took out some hidden cloud tea and directly threw it into his mouth. He chewed the tea leaves to recover his divine sense. After that, he took out a rejuvenation pill and ate it to heal his internal injuries. With one chasing and the other fleeing, Wang Daoyuan quickly entered the unknown area 500 miles east of the 100 Rivers Lake. At this point, the Wolf King did not dare to roar and scream. With the soul-chasing bees leading the way, he went more than 30 miles into the unknown area and successfully avoided several mountains with rank 2 demonic beasts. The road in front of him became rugged and difficult to walk. He had to avoid the rank 2 demonic beasts along the way. He had no choice but to bite the bullet and walk through the border of the rank 2 demonic beasts' territory. After running for another 10 miles, Wang Daoyuan sadly found that there was no road ahead. He was standing on a cliff and below was a deep valley. There were rank 2 demonic beasts entrenched on both sides. These soul-chasing bees were really stubborn. He told them to avoid the demonic beasts, but they only knew how to avoid the monsters. They did not know how to avoid the cliff. The soul-chasing bees could fly, so they did not care about the cliff. However, Wang Daoyuan could not fly. The cliff opposite the deep valley was more than 3 miles away from him. Unfortunately, he was not a Foundation establishment cultivator. This 3 miles wide deep valley was the gate of hell for him. The Wolf King quickly caught up. Seeing that Wang Daoyuan had nowhere to go, it roared excitedly. It directly rushed up and fought with Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan condensed the golden rock phantom again. This time there was no way to escape. He could only fight with his back to the river. The Wolf King rushed up, but he did not dodge at all. He threw out a few golden knife talismans, and then the golden rock phantom released all the feather blades at once. The Wolf King dodged most of the attacks, but there were still more than 20 wounds on its body. The Wolf King also fought fiercely and did not retreat. It held the feather blades and pounced on Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan directly summoned the soul-extinguishing bell. If he did not kill the Wolf King, he had no way to survive. He was not afraid of attracting other rank 2 demonic beasts. Chapter 114. When the Wolf King saw him take out the soul-extinguishing bell, it knew that it was not easy to deal with him, so it stopped charging. He would not give the Wolf King a chance to escape and directly activated the soul-extinguishing bell. After the bell rang, the Wolf King directly fell to the ground. The nearby rank 2 demonic beasts also let out angry roars. Although they were far away and the bell could not hurt them, this was a provocation. Wang Daoyuan had been forced to a dead end, so he did not care about them. After all, the Wolf King was a rank 2 monster, so it would not be finished like this. It quickly got up and fled. Wang Daoyuan activated the soul-extinguishing bell 2 more times, and the Wolf King had already escaped some distance away. These 2 bell rings did not cause as much damage to the Wolf King as the first one. As a rank 2 monster, although the Wolf King was injured by the soul-extinguishing bell, it was not to the extent that it lost its fighting strength. It lay on the ground, spitting out a few mouthfuls of blood and stumbling a little, but it still walked toward Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan took out the aged scarlet blood wine from the space of the spirit pearl, drank a few mouthfuls and circulated his spirit energy with all his strength. The golden rock phantom once again grew 200 feather blades. At this time, countless wolf howls sounded, and a large group of black cloud wolves rushed over like a black cloud, pressing toward the cliff. The black cloud wolves had arrived, so he had no chance. Wang Daoyuan controlled the golden rock phantom and released all the feathers to hit the wolves. Then he controlled the golden rock phantom to pounce on the wolves and then detonated the phantom. The Wolf King thought that he killed its son, and if he was caught alive, it would be difficult for him to die. Besides, he had the space of the spirit pearl, so if his main body died he could still live by taking over his clone. Even if it was harder to cultivate in the future, at least he could still live. If he fell into the hands of the Wolf King and died, the space of the spirit pearl would be exposed, and his clone would have no way to survive. He did not see the destructive effect of the golden rock phantom's self-destruction, and turned around and jumped off the cliff. Wang Daoyuan felt a burst of despair in his heart. He had risked his life many times and saw that the golden core inheritance was in sight, but he did not expect that there was no hope. Unfortunately, he could not fly. Yunyi had recognized him as her master and could sense his thoughts. A tiger roar sounded in the space of the spirit pearl. Wang Daoyuan then remembered that there was still Yunyi. Although it hadn't been long since this little fellow learned how to fly, at least it could fly. He summoned Yunyi out of the space, and the cloud patterns on Yunyi's shoulders instantly turned into 2 10-foot-long wings. These wings weren't real, but were formed from spiritual energy in the form of clouds. This should be Yunyi's innate ability. No wonder it took so much effort for Yunyi to learn how to fly. It took her more than a year to learn how to fly normally. Wang Daoyuan rode on Yunyi's back and let Yunyi fly him to the opposite cliff. Unfortunately, Yunyi had just learned how to fly not long ago, and her cultivation was only at the mid-grade of the first stage. If it wasn't stable, it would be even more difficult to carry another person. Although it tried its best to flap its wings, the man and the tiger continued to fall. Wang Daoyuan released the soul-chasing bees again and let them bite his clothes and pull up with all their might. Unfortunately, although the soul-chasing bees could fly fast, they weren't good at carrying heavy loads. More than 1,000 soul-chasing bees still couldn't stop the downward trend. However, it wasn't useless. At least they fell much slower. Wang Daoyuan didn't expect to fly to the opposite cliff. It was fine as long as he could fall to the bottom of the valley and not fall to his death. He ordered Yunyi and the soul-chasing bees to land at the bottom of the valley. Yunyi and the soul-chasing bees no longer struggled to pull up. Instead, they stretched out their wings and glided down. This valley was thousands of feet deep. If they fell down directly, there was no hope of survival. However, it was much better for Yunyi to glide down. At least she could save her life. Yunyi glided down diagonally and soon reached the bottom of the valley. Wang Daoyuan stuck a few earth armor talismans on himself and Yunyi. After landing, the man and tiger glided more than 200 feet on the ground. There were rocks of all sizes on the ground. If not for the protection of the earth armor talismans, this gliding distance was enough to take their lives. Although Yunyi's flying skills were terrible, at least she saved her life. Moreover, the damage caused by landing was not serious. After Wang Daoyuan landed, he carefully observed the surroundings. He saw that this was a very deep valley. At the bottom of the valley, there was a stream flowing from north to south. The widest part of the valley was 4 to 5 miles wide, and the narrowest part was only 100 feet wide. He looked at both ends of the valley, but he couldn't see the end. The ground was mostly sand and rocks, and not a single blade of grass grew. On the cliffs on both sides, sparse vegetation could occasionally be seen. The spirit energy was extremely thin, comparable to a place without spirit veins outside the heaven/mountain range. This bit of spirit energy was barely enough for early-stage chi refinement cultivators to cultivate. Cultivators with higher cultivation levels would seriously affect their cultivation speed if they cultivated here. If it was elsewhere, it would not be strange for the spirit energy to be so thin. However, this was the periphery of the heaven/mountain range, which was only 500 kilometers away from the main vein. In the periphery of the heaven/mountain range, even the outermost area, the spirit energy was comparable to that of the Spirit Spring Cave abode. This place was so close to the main vein. Even if there were no spirit veins, the concentration of spirit energy would at least be much higher than that of the Spirit Spring cave abode. There must be a demon if things were abnormal. The spirit energy here was abnormally thin. There must be a problem. He was seriously injured and had consumed a lot of spirit energy and divine consciousness. He did not dare to move around casually. He released more than 100 soul-chasing bees and found a place to stay nearby. This valley was thousands of feet deep and there were cliffs on both sides. It was very difficult to climb up, and it was easy to be ambushed by demonic beasts during the process. For safety reasons, it was better to find a place to stay in this valley and recover his spirit energy and divine consciousness. He would wait until Yuni could carry him up. Then he used the Earth Escape Talisman and escaped underground. He did not escape elsewhere. He only hid underground to avoid being discovered by demonic beasts. After half an hour, all the soul-chasing bees returned. Not a single one was missing. Wang Daoyuan was a little surprised. In such a strange place, there were no demonic beasts that could take down the soul-chasing bees. However, he did not dare to be careless and run around. Instead, he carefully asked these soul-chasing bees if they found a suitable place to stay. There were really a few soul-chasing bees that found cave abodes on both sides of the cliff. These cave abodes were inhabited by demonic beasts, but their ranks were not high. His goal at this time was to recover as soon as possible. He did not have the mind to catch rare demonic beasts, so he found a cave abode that seemed to be the safest. This cave abode was only 3 meters above the ground. There was not even a blade of grass growing near the cave entrance. He used his divine consciousness to explore the cave abode and found that there was a small group of wild boars living in the cave, including a male and a female, 2 large boars and more than a dozen small wild boars. These wild boars were called fierce blood boars. They were not ordinary demonic beasts that could grow into rank 2 demonic beasts. The fierce blood boars were pitch black and were no different from ordinary wild boars. Their biggest feature was that their blood was extremely vigorous and their physical body was strong, far surpassing demonic beasts of the same rank. An adult fierce blood boar was a rank 2 mid-grade demonic beast. The blood of the fierce blood boar was also an excellent material for rank 2 spirit ink. Of course, it had to be the blood of a rank 2 fierce blood boar. Although the fierce blood boar did not have the bloodline of a high-grade demonic beast, with its powerful physical body, few demonic beasts of the same rank could match it. However, these 2 adult fierce blood boars were only rank 1 mid-grade, perhaps because the spirit energy in this valley was too thin and there were no spiritual items. Chapter 115. Wang Daoyuan used his divine sense to explore the cave and didn't find any danger. The 2 adult ferocious blood pigs had low cultivation and didn't notice his divine sense power. He used the invisibility technique and breath-holding technique, walked directly into the cave and walked in front of the ferocious blood pigs. The 2 adult ferocious blood pigs were eating fish and didn't notice the danger. He detonated an illusion cloud talisman in the space and used his divine sense to draw the clouds out of the space. The clouds created by the illusion cloud talisman instantly surrounded the group of ferocious blood pigs. The ferocious blood pigs fainted without any vigilance. Wang Daoyuan transferred all the pigs into the space to enrich the spirit beasts in the space. There were a lot of jasper watermelons and many pseudo-spirit fish in the space, enough for this group of ferocious blood pigs to eat. When they became rank 2 demonic beasts, there would be a stable source of rank 2 spirit ink. After cleaning up the ferocious blood pigs, he called out his clone Zhao Baogua to clean the pigsty. After cleaning, he put his clone into the space. In terms of hygiene, this group of ferocious blood pigs was simply unbearable to look at. This cave was dirtier than a mortal's pigsty. If he didn't clean it up, he wouldn't be able to live at all. It had to be said that his clone old Zhao was still good at doing chores. He quickly cleaned the pigsty. Due to the limited conditions, Wang Daoyuan didn't care about it. He took out a futon and a short table from the space. On the short table were jasper watermelons, scarlet blood wine, rejuvenation pills, and a pot of hidden cloud tea. The spirit chi here was thin, and it was too time-consuming to rely on meditation to restore spirit power. There were abundant resources in the space of the spirit bead, so he naturally had to make full use of them. Now, in addition to healing, he also needed medicinal pills to restore spirit power and divine sense, which could be solved by eating and drinking. He sat cross-legged on the futon and began to eat and drink. 3 days later, his spirit power and divine sense were completely restored, and his injuries were almost healed. He could exert at least 80 to 90% of his strength. The next step was to find a way out. Although there was Yunyi, he could wait for Yunyi to improve her flying ability and fly out. However, time waits for no one. Before the Clear Glass City Square's auction of the Foundation Establishment Elixir, there would definitely be clans and itinerant cultivators who would sell their Tier 2 phase. This was the best time to scour the market. There were also Tier 2 phase in the Oasis region, but they were not commonly seen. Some of them had to risk their lives to obtain them. Before the Foundation building elixir was auctioned, one could exchange it for a Grade 2 Fey with spirit stones. It would be a huge loss if they missed the opportunity to purchase Grade 2 Feys at a low price. Wang Daoyuan had always been prepared for many things. Waiting for Yun Yi to improve her flying ability was not in line with his habits. This strange canyon was also very attractive to him. From the fierce blood boar, it could be seen that due to the thin spirit chi in this canyon, some of the demonic beasts that had the potential to advance to the second stage were only at the first stage. After bringing these demonic beasts out and nurturing them, they would be able to advance to the second stage. To the Wang clan and himself, rank 2 demonic beasts were extremely valuable. Outside, even the entire Wang clan might not be able to catch a single fierce blood boar, but here it was effortless. If he could catch a few more types of demonic beasts with potential, he would make a huge profit. After he left the cave, he released the soul-chasing bees to search for the nearby demonic beasts. When he was searching for the cave abodes, he found a few with demonic beasts, but the value of those demonic beasts was very ordinary. The fierce blood boar could be made into Tier 2 spirit ink. It reproduced quickly and could be used for meat. It had strong combat power and a high growth limit. It could be used as a war beast. As for those demonic beasts whose growth limit was not high and had no special uses, such as a high-grade Tier 1 black bear, they were not even worth 100 spirit stones. Other than killing them for meat, they were useless. Killing such demonic beasts was a complete waste of time for Wang Daoyuan. The soul-chasing bees that he released were divided into 2 groups. They went along the canyon and explored in the north and south directions. 2 hours later, both groups of soul-chasing bees returned and reported more than 10 places with demonic beasts. Wang Daoyuan discovered that the grade of these demonic beasts had a lot to do with the location. The soul-chasing bees that went north of the canyon found demonic beasts that were high-grade Tier 1. As for the soul-chasing bees that went south, they found demonic beasts that were mid-grade Tier 1. There were even demonic beasts that were low-grade Tier 1. Judging from the fact that the adult fierce blood boar was only mid-grade Tier 1, the grade of the demonic beast here was mainly limited by the concentration of spirit chi. In other words, going south of the canyon, the concentration of spirit chi gradually decreased. Going north of the canyon, the concentration of spirit chi gradually increased. He personally followed the canyon in the north and south directions and explored a few hundred miles. The result was as he had guessed. The concentration of spirit chi in the canyon decreased from north to south. This place was not far from the main vein of the heaven/mountain range, but the concentration of spirit chi was abnormally low. It was much lower than the outside world where there were no spirit veins. This was definitely not a problem with the direction of the spirit veins. The most reasonable explanation was that there was an unknown object that was absorbing the spirit chi in this place. If there was really something that absorbed spirit chi, then the closer it was to him, the more spirit chi would be absorbed and the lower the concentration of spirit chi would be. The further it was, the less spirit chi would be absorbed and the higher the concentration of spirit chi would be. In other words, the object that absorbed spirit chi should be in the south. This object could absorb spirit chi in a range of a few hundred miles or even more. It was very likely that there was no spirit chi in the vicinity of this place. For human cultivators, demonic beasts, and even all life forms that required spirit chi-deprived lands were extremely dangerous. If one was trapped in a spirit chi-deprived lands and could not replenish their spirit chi for a long time, no matter how high their cultivation was, they would slowly disappear. However, Wang Daoyuan was an exception. He had the spirit pearl space in his hands. He did not know how the spirit pearl space replenished the spirit chi consumed by spirit objects, but it definitely did not absorb spirit chi directly from his surroundings. The spirit pearl space required a large amount of spirit chi. If it directly absorbed spirit chi from his surroundings, then there would be a very obvious spirit chi whirlpool around him. In this way, even if he was in a spirit chi deprived lands, the spirit pearl space would still be able to produce spirit medicine normally. Spirit objects that could create spirit chi deprived lands were definitely not ordinary spirit objects. They were either rare heavenly treasures or extremely high-grade demonic beasts. He had read some ancient legends. To be able to create such a large spirit chi deprived lands, it had to be at least a rank 5 demonic beast, which was equivalent to a human cultivator at the Yuanying stage. It was unlikely that there would be such a strong demonic beast in Beiyuan Xiaoshan at present. As long as it was not a demonic beast, spirit qi-deprived lands were the safest place for Wang Daoyuan. It was not a big problem to explore. In the end, he decided to see what had created spirit qi-deprived lands. The spirit qi-deprived lands was so dense that it would not affect the cultivation speed of qi condensation stage third stage cultivators. He followed the canyon south for more than 150 kilometers. The spirit qi-deprived lands was even thinner here. It could only ensure that the cultivation speed of qi condensation stage first stage cultivators would not be affected. Here he also discovered a valuable demonic beast, the golden rock antelope. According to the Myriad Spirit Atlas, the golden rock antelope was a rank 1 upper-grade demonic beast. It belonged to the sheep species and liked to climb rocks. The golden rock antelope was mainly used for meat. Its skin could be used to make defensive Dharma artifacts, but the quality was average. Its milk production was not low. Although the quality of its milk was not good, it was still a spirit object. It was very suitable for low-level cultivators to consume. Wang Daoyuan encountered a small herd of golden rock antelopes. One male goat led 5 or 6 ewes and 3 lambs. The leader goat was only a rank 1 upper-grade demonic beast. He easily captured the entire herd and put it into the spirit pearl space. At the same time, he warned Yun Yi not to have any ideas about the herd. Chapter 116. Wang Daoyuan followed the canyon for another 200 miles or so. Here, not a single blade of grass grew, there were no spiritual items, and he couldn't feel a trace of spiritual energy. This was the land of desolation. In the land of desolation, the spiritual energy in his body was constantly flowing away. Even if he tried his best to suppress it, he could only reduce the speed of the loss. Fortunately, the speed of the loss of spiritual energy wasn't too outrageous, and it wouldn't affect him too much for a short period of time. This land of desolation was also in the canyon. It was more than 10 miles long from north to south, and 3 to 4 miles wide from east to west. He carefully searched the entire land of desolation. Other than the lack of spiritual energy, there was nothing out of the ordinary. Wang Daoyuan laughed. This thing that absorbs spiritual energy is quite good at hiding. He wasn't in a hurry. After waiting for a few hours in the land of desolation, everything in the space of the spirit bead was normal. It wasn't affected by the land of desolation. In this way he could guarantee that there would be no shortage of spiritual energy, so he dared to cause trouble in the land of desolation. He operated his cultivation technique and condensed a pure spiritual energy ball in his hand. He released the spiritual energy ball and used his divine sense to control it so that it wouldn't disperse. The spiritual energy ball was pulled by a force and floated towards the south. Seeing this, he laughed. Let's see how you can hide now. The spiritual energy ball floated to the middle of the land of desolation, and its floating speed suddenly accelerated. A moment later, the spiritual energy ball hit a rock on the east side of the canyon and disappeared. The connection between the spiritual energy ball and his divine sense was also instantly cut off. This rock was more than 5 feet tall and 3 feet wide. It was dark green and didn't have a trace of spiritual energy. Wang Daoyuan couldn't see what was so special about this rock. He used his divine sense to explore the inside of the dark green rock. He didn't expect this rock to block the power of divine sense. His divine sense couldn't penetrate it at all. He used the heaven-peering technique to explore the rock with his divine sense, but the result was the same. The power of divine sense was useless. This rock was completely ignored. He directly took out the profound yang sword and slashed it. His hand was shaken to the point of pain, but the rock was unharmed, not even a trace was left. The sharp metal sword slashed, but there was no movement. Then Wang Daoyuan used all the basic spells of the 5 elements, but the rock was still the same. He took out the 5 dragon soul-chasing whip and whipped the rock 5 times in a row, but not even a stone fragment was left behind. After that, he used the feather blade, soul-extinguishing bell, soul-splitting blade, and other techniques of the golden rock wrestling dragon technique, but they were all useless. He also used the physics principles that he had learned in his previous life, thermal expansion and contraction, to attack first with fire spells, and then with water spells to lower the temperature. If a normal rock were to be manipulated in such a manner, it would crumble very quickly, but this rock did not change at all. Wang Daoyuan was in despair. He sat down on the ground and took out a cup of hidden cloud tea and a jar of red blood wine from the space to restore his spirit energy and divine sense. When he took out the hidden cloud tea, the indestructible rock seemed to fluctuate slightly. This fluctuation was extremely subtle, and Wang Daoyuan's attention was not on the rock. He thought he had sensed wrongly. When he took out the wine jar, the ripples on the rock became obvious. Wang Daoyuan was certain that this was not an illusion. He took out a few spirit grains, a jasper watermelon, a long-eared rabbit, and a yun-yi tiger from the space of the spirit pearl. After comparison, he found that the bigger the things he took out from the space of the spirit pearl, the more obvious the ripples on the rock. The long-eared rabbit and yun-yi tiger wanted to have fun after coming out, but when they found that there was no trace of spirit energy around them, they bounced around him, wanting to return to the space of the spirit pearl. He put the long-eared rabbit and yun-yi back into the space, and the dark green rock fluctuated twice again. Wang Daoyuan pondered for a while and made some inferences about this dark green rock. This rock ignored divine sense and spirit energy attacks, but it reacted when things were taken out of the space of the spirit pearl. Taking out things from the space of the spirit pearl involved the Tao of space. The Tao of space was extremely brilliant but also extremely common. The storage bag was the lowest level of the Tao of space. He inferred that this rock might be reacting to the Tao of space. In order to confirm his guess, he took out a storage bag and opened it next to the dark green rock. Sure enough, the rock fluctuated slightly. Moreover, the closer the storage bag was to the rock, the greater the fluctuation. There was no doubt that the rock was reacting to the Tao of space. Wang Daoyuan had more than 30 storage bags on him, including the storage bags used to store materials in the space of the spirit pearl, and a few spirit beast bags. He took out all the storage bags, placed them in front of the dark green rock, and opened them at the same time. The dark green rock emitted a violent fluctuation, and then a door more than 5 feet tall and 1 foot wide opened. Wang Daoyuan didn't dare to enter rashly, so he put in a few soul-chasing bees. After waiting for half an hour, the soul-chasing bees didn't encounter any danger, so he dared to enter the door. As soon as he entered the door, he felt an extremely pure spirit energy. The spirit energy here wasn't very dense, only comparable to the spirit energy near a high-grade rank 1 spirit vein, but it was extremely pure. No matter how dense the spirit energy outside was, it was mixed with many non-spirit energy components such as dust, air, and so on. But here there was only spirit energy in the air and nothing else. Cultivators or spirit beasts could get twice the result with half the effort if they cultivated here, but mortals couldn't survive here at all. After he entered the door, he also brought in the storage bags and the door closed instantly. His divine sense couldn't detect the situation outside at all. This was a completely sealed secret realm. The so-called secret realm was a small independent world. It was not directly connected to the outside world, but it was inextricably linked. Secret realms could evolve naturally. Spatial treasures like the spirit pearl space were refined from natural secret realms. It could also be artificially created. Some high-level cultivators' caves or tombs could be artificially created secret realms. Whether this secret realm evolved naturally or artificially created by high-level cultivators, it was impossible to confirm. After entering the door, there was a narrow cave in front of him, only enough for one person to enter and exit. He let out the soul-chasing bees to lead the way, and walked forward along the cave. After walking for more than a mile, there was light in front. Wang Daoyuan stood at the entrance of the cave looking out and saw a lush green. Outside the cave was a wide space. The ground of the space was covered with grass and low shrubs. Occasionally there were a few tall trees. Grass and trees were everywhere, but none of them were ordinary plants. All of them were spiritual plants and they were all ranked, but their ranks weren't high. The highest was only a first-grade spiritual plant. The strangest thing was that many of the spiritual plants were not suitable to live in this environment. For example, the snow country grass in front of him could only grow in places where ice and snow didn't melt all year round, but it could actually grow in this secret realm that wasn't cold. Apart from being a little sickly, there was nothing unusual about it. This secret realm was really unusual. He continued to walk forward and soon he saw a few spiritual plants. These spiritual plants looked similar to alfalfa, and their flowers were purple gold. They were called purple gold alfalfa, and were excellent pasture. In the spirit pearl space, there were long-eared rabbits and golden rock antelopes that ate grass, and the fierce blood boar could also eat grass, so it was good to have a high-quality pasture. He casually transplanted the alfalfa into the spirit pearl space, and ordered his clone to take good care of it. After that he continued to walk forward. This secret realm was very big and he walked more than 15 miles, but he still couldn't see the end. As he went deeper, the spirit chi became denser, and it was very close to a second-grade spiritual heritage. The spiritual plants around him also increased in rank, and although there were no second-grade spiritual plants, they were no longer sickly and were very energetic. Chapter 117. At this time, Some dead plants appeared around Wang Daoyuan, and they were all of high quality. Many of them were second-rank spiritual plants. As he continued to walk forward, the living plants were still first-rank high quality, but the dead plants were getting higher and higher in quality. Some second-rank high-quality dead plants had already appeared. He also found something wrong. After walking for dozens of miles into the secret realm, he didn't see a single demonic beast or native spiritual insect. Could it be that demonic beasts and spiritual insects couldn't survive in this secret realm? However, he had been here for so long and didn't feel any discomfort. The soul-chasing bees that he released to scout the way also didn't do anything abnormal. He released his divine sense to explore the surroundings, even the underground, but he still didn't find any living things other than plants. The strange environment made his hair stand on end. He took out the sharp gold sword and put the jade pendant on his body, ready to deal with any sudden danger. However, since he was already here, he really didn't want to leave without a big harvest. He braced himself and continued to walk forward. After walking for more than 10 miles, he finally found something related to demonic beasts, the skeleton of a second-rank demonic beast, the iron-horned bull. If it weren't for the iconic big horns that were still shining with a metallic light, he really wouldn't have recognized the skeleton. He carefully walked over and touched the skeleton with the sharp gold sword. The skeleton instantly collapsed and even the big horns were broken. It might have been dead for too long and the skeleton had long decayed. It was just that it wasn't affected by the outside world, so it was still in its original state. Once touched, it shattered. The iron-horned bull had been dead for a long time, and it didn't die in a secret place, but it hadn't been touched for a long time. From this phenomenon, it could be inferred that after this iron-horned bull died, there were almost no demonic beasts or spiritual insects in this place. Now this place could support demonic beasts and spiritual insects, which meant that this place had suffered a great change and then slowly recovered. For a secret realm to recover, it would need a huge amount of spiritual energy, so it could be explained that there was a place with no spiritual energy outside. Of course, this was just speculation and there was no sufficient evidence. He walked to the side of a withered spiritual tree and gently poked it with his sharp golden sword. The withered spiritual tree instantly turned into a pile of debris. Wang Daoyuan sighed and said, "As expected, it's a spiritual tree that's been dead for a long time. It seems like my guess is quite accurate." After traveling for another 50 or so miles, they encountered many withered spiritual trees and demonic beast skeletons along the way. Similarly, they all shattered upon contact. The concentration of spirit chi here had already reached the level of a low-grade level 2 spirit vein, and the living spirit plants nearby had also appeared to be level 2. In front of him was a bamboo forest. This was a rank 2 mid-grade spirit plant, green jade bamboo. The green jade bamboo was not considered rare in the outside world. It was often used to refine second-tier wood attribute magic tools, and its value was quite high. When he saw the green jade bamboo, he thought of the wood attribute Dharma artifact. Only then did he realize that there was a problem with this arcane realm. The spirit chi here was actually of the wood attribute. Even when he had just entered this secret realm, the spirit chi was still of the wood attribute and had not been converted into spirit chi of other attributes. There should be something in this secret realm that was suppressing the transformation of the 5 elements. It was no wonder that there were no living demonic beasts or spirit insects here. In an environment where the 5 elements were incomplete, it was difficult for demonic beasts and spirit insects to survive. This did not mean that other living creatures would die when they entered, but that the spirit chi here could not support the survival of demonic beasts. When demonic beasts from outside came in, they would not die immediately, but they would also not be able to reproduce here. Demonic beasts and spirit plants were different. Spirit plants only needed would attribute spirit chi to survive and reproduce normally. On the other hand, demonic beasts and even humans needed an environment with all 5 elements to be able to reproduce. The 5 elements could be unbalanced. For example, near the earth fire spirit chi was rich, but the spirit chi of other attributes still existed. The imbalance of the 5 elements could be as severe as it wanted, but it must not be lacking. In an environment where there was only would attribute spirit chi, cultivators who cultivated would attribute cultivation techniques or would attribute demonic beasts could still survive, although they could not reproduce. Cultivators and demonic beasts who did not cultivate would attribute spirit chi would not be able to survive for long here. This should be the reason why there were no demonic beasts here despite the lush vegetation. This kind of environment did not affect Wang Daoyuan much. He possessed the 5 elements spiritual roots and had also cultivated the 5 elements cultivation method. As long as the spirit chi's attribute did not exceed the range of the 5 elements, He could use his cultivation technique to refine what attribute spirit chi into what attribute spirit chi, and then convert it into spirit chi of other attributes. The spirit chi in his body was also of the 5 elements. The soul-chasing bee was a non-elemental spirit insect, which meant that it had all 5 elements. Could refine what attribute spirit chi. Although it could not change the attribute of spirit chi at will, it could still survive normally. However, this kind of special environment with spirit chi of a single attribute was especially suitable for cultivation. If a cultivator who majored in what attribute cultivation techniques came here, even if he had multiple spirit roots, his cultivation speed would not be much slower than a celestial spirit root, and the quality of the condensed true essence would be similar. What Wang Daoyuan was more interested in was what suppressed the mutual generation of the 5 elements. If he could use it for cultivation, he would be able to cultivate completely pure spirit chi and condense high-quality true essence, and the difficulty of foundation establishment would be greatly reduced. He could not let go of the green jade bamboo in front of him. This was a rank 2 spirit plant, and its value was extremely high. He planned to dig up a few stalks of green jade bamboo and transplant them into the space of the spirit pearl. However, he underestimated the difficulty of this matter. Bamboo was a spirit plant of the same origin, and the roots of a large bamboo forest were all connected together. To transplant a bamboo stalk, one had to cut off the bamboo whip. How could a rank 2 spirit bamboo's bamboo whip be so easy to cut off? He could only use rank 2 low-grade golden saber talismans to attack the bamboo whip, and 3 golden saber talismans were needed to cut off a bamboo whip. In the end, he only transplanted 1 stalk of green jade bamboo and did not dare to use too many golden saber talismans. After all, he was in a dangerous place and had to leave some rank 2 spirit talismans to save his life. Next, he had to carefully look for something that suppressed the mutual generation of the 5 elements. He had a hunch that this thing was definitely not simple and might be of great use to him. Walking into the bamboo forest, he found that the concentration of spirit chi here was still increasing. The thing he was looking for was very likely to be in the place with the richest spirit chi. After walking in the green jade bamboo forest for half a quarter of an hour, the concentration of spirit chi in the surroundings was comparable to that of a rank 2 mid-grade spirit vein. He ordered the soul-chasing bee to find the place with the richest spirit chi. The soul-chasing bee brought him to a peach tree. This peach tree was only about 3 feet tall and was not conspicuous in the green jade bamboo forest. However, this peach tree was luxuriant, and there were 2 or 3 branches with peach blossoms on the tree crown. The concentration of spirit chi near the peach tree was higher than other places, and it was comparable to that of a rank 2 high-grade spirit vein. Other than that, there was nothing special about this peach tree. It did not even have a trace of spirit chi fluctuation, and it was just like an ordinary peach tree. Using his divine sense to probe, he did not find any clues. He used the sharp golden sword to lightly poke the peach tree. This luxuriant peach tree, full of vitality, and even blooming flowers, actually turned into debris like the dead wood he had encountered before. Chapter 118. Wang Daoyuan was a little scared. He seemed to have destroyed the core of this mystic realm. Scanning the surroundings and probing with divine sense, he did not find any changes. Only then did he relax. The core of the mystic realm was related to the stability of the mystic realm. If the core was destroyed, the entire mystic realm would collapse very quickly. Now that there were no signs of this mystic realm collapsing, he also relaxed. This peach tree was definitely not an ordinary item. He originally wanted to transplant it into the space of the spiritual pearl, but did not expect it to shatter with a touch. The mystic realm was very big and was filled with all kinds of spirit plants. There were also many valuable ones. Wouldn't it be a pity if he did not plunder them? He walked out of the bamboo forest and began to search for the spirit medicines needed for foundation establishment. This mystic realm had existed for God knows how many years. No human cultivators had set foot in it, so it might have preserved many rare species. At present, what he needed most was the spirit medicines to refine the foundation establishment pill. No matter how precious the other spirit medicines were, compared to the foundation establishment pill, they were still lacking. If he could find the true essence fruit, it would be a big gain. The 3 main ingredients of the foundation establishment pill, dragon crouching vine and blood jade ginseng, would appear on the market once every 100 years. And the true essence fruit, according to records, had not appeared on the market for more than 2,000 years. Not to mention the true essence fruit tree. This mystic realm most likely did not have native demonic beasts, so there was not much danger. He directly released all the soul-chasing bees and ordered them to search for a foundation establishment pill spirit medicine. He himself used the divine walking technique and quickly traveled through the mystic realm. He spread out his divine sense and scanned the spirit plants one by one, finding the valuable ones among them. The effect was really good. A few hours later, he found 7 or 8 kinds of supplementary herbs for the Foundation Establishment pill. Previously in Green Willow State for more than half a year, he also received several kinds of Foundation Establishment pill supplementary herbs. Up until now, he already had more than 10 kinds of Foundation Establishment pill supplementary herbs. He only lacked the dragon tendon grass to protect the meridians, and he could collect all the supplementary herbs. This mystic realm had a radius of several hundred miles, but there was no danger. For 1,000 over soul-chasing bees it was really not too big. A few hours later, they searched the entire mystic realm but did not find traces of the Foundation Establishment pill's main ingredient. Wang Daoyuan sighed and said, "Looks like it's not so easy to reach Foundation Establishment." Just as he was about to look for other valuable spirit herbs, a violent fluctuation of spirit chi came from the green jade bamboo forest. Then a beam of green light shot up into the sky, as if a heavenly treasure had been born. Wang Daoyuan recalled the soul-chasing wasp and used the swift art to rush towards the bamboo forest. Only when he got closer did he realize that the spiritual chi fluctuations were coming from the pile of peach tree fragments. At this moment, the pile of peachwood fragments was burning fiercely. This flame wasn't an ordinary yellow or red flame, but a jade-green color. As the flames burned fiercely, a wave of fresh air blew against his face. Under the nourishment of this fresh aura, the spirit chi of the surrounding green jade bamboos became stronger and stronger, far surpassing that of their counterparts in the distance. Some bamboos even directly evolved. This fresh aura could actually allow spirit plants to advance. How could he let go of such a good thing? He immediately walked forward, wanting to take the peachwood fragments and the dark green flame into the space of the spirit pearl. However, these fragments and flames simply couldn't be moved by divine sense. When divine sense probed over, the fragments and flames were completely unmoved. He could only watch helplessly as the fragments slowly burned, and the flames gradually extinguished. It made his heart ache so much that he shed tears. There was such a heavenly treasure that no one was fighting for, yet he couldn't take it for his own use. This was the greatest pain in the world. Half an hour later, the peach tree fragments were all burned clean, leaving only a pile of ashes. Just as Wang Daoyuan was lamenting, a trace of spirit chi fluctuation was emitted from the ashes, and there was even a fresh aura that could allow spirit plants to advance. He pounced forward and used his hands to push aside the ashes. Under the ashes was a peach tree sapling that was 3 to 4 inches tall, emitting extremely weak spirit chi fluctuations. The top bud of this peach tree sapling was also emitting a trace of fresh aura. Wang Daoyuan used his divine sense to probe over and saw that there was actually an extremely fine flame burning in the top bud. Although the flame in the top bud was extremely fine, it was exactly the same as the green flame that burned the peach tree fragments and caused the surrounding green jade bamboos to advance. He was extremely excited. This is a true heavenly treasure. If I can transplant this peach tree sapling into the space of the spirit pearl, I'll have struck it big. At this time, the ground of the secret realm trembled slightly, and there was a trend of it becoming stronger and stronger. Before he could react to what was going on, he saw a crack appear in the distant sky. There were no sun, moon, or stars in the sky of the secret realm. Everywhere was gray and hazy. At this time, a pitch-black crack appeared in the distance. The crack was constantly expanding and things were constantly falling. The ground also began to crack and huge cracks appeared, spreading towards the bamboo forest. This was clearly the secret realm about to collapse. Previously, when the peach tree turned into fragments, the secret realm didn't move. He originally thought that the peach tree wasn't the secret realm's core, but he didn't expect it to be true. He originally wanted to transplant this peach tree sapling into the space of the spirit pearl, and then plunder some valuable spirit plants, but now it seemed impossible. He dug out the peach tree sapling along with its roots and put it into the space of the spirit pearl. After transplanting the peach tree sapling, the speed of the secret realm's collapse suddenly became much faster. The cracks in the sky and ground spread rapidly, and the secret realm could completely collapse at any time. He didn't dawdle and directly used his trump card, a middle-grade level 2 divine travel talisman. Then he drove the wind-stepping boots on his feet with all his might, sprinting towards the door he came from. In less than 15 minutes he arrived in front of that greenish-black rock. He immediately took out all his storage bags and opened them in front of the rock. The door appeared again. At this time the cave also began to collapse. He passed through the door and put away his storage bags. After the door closed, the entire cliff started to shake, and huge rocks kept rolling down the cliff. Wang Daoyuan didn't stop and immediately ran along the canyon towards the south. Soon he ran more than 200 miles away. The collapse of the secret realm caused such a huge commotion in the outside world. Once the shaking stopped, there would be high-level demon beasts coming to investigate very quickly. If he continued to stay here, he would be waiting for high-level demon beasts to kill him. In addition, he felt that this place of death was starting to have weak spirit chi. This was also very normal. There was no spirit chi previously, which was the result of the secret realm absorbing spirit chi from the outside world. Now that the secret realm had collapsed, the level of spirit chi in the entire canyon would return to normal. At that time, there would be a large number of level 2 and even level 3 demon beasts coming to fight for territory. If he didn't leave quickly when the demon beasts entered the canyon en masse and prepared to fight for territory, a human cultivator would wander around here. At that time he would be facing hundreds of level 2 demon beasts alone. He didn't have time to wait for Yunyi to carry him out. He found a cliff that wasn't particularly dangerous and prepared to climb up. He didn't dare to climb the cliff before because he was afraid that there would be a sneak attack by flying demon beasts midway. He wouldn't even be able to find a place to escape. Now that he was in a place of death and the cliff was shaking violently, no demon beasts would dare to come over in a short time. He released a few soul-chasing bees and went to the top of the cliff to see if there were any level 2 demon beasts nearby. He didn't want to directly fall into the mouth of a demon beast after climbing up. Not long after, the soul-chasing bees returned and didn't find any level 2 demon beasts nearby. They were probably scared away by the violent shaking of the cliff. He didn't dare to dawdle anymore. Holding the sharp golden sword in his hand, he stabbed it into the stone wall as a point of strength and climbed up the cliff. This place was already far away from the center of the shaking. The cliff didn't shake too violently, and not many stones rolled down. The cliff was still stable. There were also no demon beasts attacking. A height of 10,000 feet was not difficult for cultivators. In less than a quarter of an hour he successfully climbed up the cliff. Chapter 119. In order to avoid being targeted by the Black Cloud Wolf again, Wang Daoyuan changed all his clothes and shoes and washed his body with a water attribute spell. Although the nearby monsters were scared away by the shaking of the cliff, he still didn't dare to let his guard down. He released dozens of soul-chasing bees to scout ahead. He first went west, leaving the unknown area, and entered the area that the cultivators of Green Willow Province had explored. After that, he didn't dare to go west directly back to Green Willow Province for fear of encountering the Black Cloud Wolf again. Instead, he turned southwest and planned to return from Beiyuan Lake. The collapse of the secret realm and the shaking of the cliff could be felt thousands of miles away. The monsters didn't know what was going on. They either ran away to hide or lay in their nests, not daring to run around. With the soul-chasing bees leading the way, he didn't encounter many monsters along the way. His journey was very smooth. There were no pursuers behind him. If he encountered a monster, he just had to go around it and the monster wouldn't take the initiative to attack. The journey back from the secret realm was more than 1,000 miles long, but there weren't many twists and turns. It only took 2 days to reach the south of Beiyuan Lake and return to Green Willow Province by boat. Although he narrowly escaped death, it didn't take much time. It was less than 10 days from departure to return. After returning to the shop, he used his divine sense to enter the space of the spiritual pearl to take a good look at the harvest of this trip. The purple gold alfalfa was growing very well. This thing was too attractive to herbivorous spirit beasts. The long-eared rabbit and golden rock antelope always wanted to eat it. In order to be able to grow a large amount in the future, the clone Old Zhao protected the purple gold alfalfa very well. The long-eared rabbit and golden rock antelope's staple food was still spirit grain straw. Yunyi finally had a playmate of equal strength. When she had nothing to do, she would provoke the fierce blood boar. However, she was often chased by 2 adult fierce blood boars. Thanks to its flying ability, it was never injured. The fierce blood boars liked the environment of the space very much. Not to mention the abundant spirit chi, there was also a large number of jade watermelons for them to eat. If it wasn't for Yunyi's harassment, it would be perfect. The jade bamboo was also alive and had begun to grow. It wouldn't be long before new bamboo shoots would grow. The peach sapling was planted next to the hidden cloud tea tree. Nearly 2 months had passed in the space, but there was no obvious change in the peach sapling. The only difference was that the fluctuation of spiritual energy had become stronger. On the other hand, the hidden cloud tea beside him had changed a lot. It was originally half dead, but now there was some vitality. The leaves were all stretched out and there was some luster on the leaves. Wang Daoyuan had gone through fire and water this time. Although he had escaped unscathed, he was still very tired. He didn't open for business immediately. Instead he rested for a few days. 5 days after returning to the oasis, Gao Yuan came knocking again. Wang Daoyuan closed the shop's defensive array formation and welcomed Gao Yuan into the shop. Gao Yuan was a little surprised to see Wang Daoyuan brimming with energy and vigor. However, he still pretended to be relieved and said, "Fortunately, little friend Zhao is safe and sound. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to explain to your grandfather." Wang Daoyuan also pretended to be confused and asked, "Senior Gao, what happened?" Gao Yuan was a little surprised. "Could it be that little friend Zhao doesn't know? After you left the oasis that day, the group of black cloud wolves went crazy. They ran around the mountain forest east of the 100 River Lake, as if they were chasing someone. It was so noisy that the surrounding hundreds of miles were not peaceful. Coincidentally, little friend Zhao also entered the mountain a few days ago. I heard that a few days ago, there was a disturbance a few hundred miles east of the 100 River Lake. Second-rank monster beasts were running around and many cultivators who entered the mountain were killed. I was worried that little friend Zhao was in danger, so I came to visit." Hearing this, Wang Daoyuan was a little disdainful. Who was he trying to fool? Didn't he just come to see if this father was dead? He said it as if he cared about this father a lot. Of course he couldn't say this out loud. He still had to work in the oasis in the future. Although Gao Yuan was a lazy dog, behind him was the higher-ups of the oasis. Before beating a dog, one had to look at the master. He politely replied, "I really don't know. I did go to the Poison Dragon Valley that day, but I encountered a second-rank poisonous snake when I entered. I was forced to escape the Poison Dragon Valley and didn't dare to go in again. Later, I went around the Poison Dragon Valley and went south to look for valuable spiritual objects. Maybe I ran too far, but I didn't see the black cloud wolves and didn't feel any disturbances. But a few days ago, some second-rank monster beasts suddenly ran around. I had to find a place to hide for 2 days. After the storm passed, I dared to come back." Gao Yuan's face revealed a pondering expression. After a long while, he responded, "Since little friend Zhao is safe and sound, I am relieved. If there is nothing else, I will take my leave first." Wang Daoyuan sent him to the door and politely said, "Senior Gao, if you find something good, don't forget this junior." Gao Yuan responded and hurriedly left. During this trip, Wang Daoyuan obtained the Dragon Crouching Vine and most of the Foundation Establishment Pill's supplementary ingredients. The remaining supplementary ingredient, Dragon Tendon Grass, was not particularly rare. You should be able to buy it. Although the True Essence Fruit and Blood Jade Ginseng were hard to find, they were not irreplaceable. There was still some hope of finding the Blood Jade Ginseng, but he did not dare to hope for the True Essence Fruit. However, the Blood Jade Ginseng and True Essence Fruit were not irreplaceable. The True Essence Fruit could be replaced by a monster beast's inner core. The Blood Jade Ginseng could be replaced by a second-rank high-grade monster beast's blood essence. Although the monster beast's inner core was not easy to find, there was still hope in Linhai's state. As long as he was willing to spend spirit stones, he might be able to buy enough monster beast's blood essence and monster beast's blood essence. If he gathered the materials, there was still hope to refine the Foundation Establishment Pill. But if he used the monster beast's inner core to refine the Foundation Establishment Pill, the cost would be more than double. However, with the Spirit Pearl space, it was not unbearable. To refine the Foundation Establishment Pill, to guarantee a 30% success rate, one needed at least a second-rank pill master. The limit that a Qi refinement cultivator could reach was a second-rank pill master. Using the monster beast's inner core to refine the Foundation Establishment Pill increased the difficulty by a lot, and the requirements for the pill master's level were also higher. He also had to start cultivating the Tao of pill refinement. After all, refining the Foundation Establishment Pill could not be done by others. His family did not have a second-rank pill master, and 7th Uncle Wang Shouhong's talent in the Tao of pill refinement could not be considered brilliant. Without breaking through the Foundation Establishment realm, it was unlikely that he could become a second-rank pill master. If he looked for an outsider to refine the Foundation Establishment Pill, the possibility of being cheated was too high. With the experience of Liang Zixing's pill refinement, Wang Daoyuan did not have to learn from scratch, which could save a lot of time. He used the soul-splitting blade to create a new subsoul to replace Liang Zixing's subsoul. After the nurtured subsoul merged with the main soul, his spiritual sense cultivation increased by 5%. Under the Violet Palace realm, it was extremely difficult to increase one's spiritual sense. Apart from encountering heaven and earth treasures, one could only rely on slowly increasing one's spiritual sense. If there was no effect of a breakthrough in cultivation, it would take several years to increase one's spiritual sense by 10%. And he cultivated the doppelganger soul nurturing technique, so he only needed to merge with a subsoul to increase his spiritual sense by 5%. If he had more clones, it would not take more than a few years for his spiritual sense power to double. After merging with the subsoul, he spent a few days sorting out the subsoul's memories, mainly digesting and absorbing the experience in pill refinement. 10 days later he officially started pill refinement, starting with the simplest fasting pill. Chapter 120. The fasting pill was the simplest and cheapest pill among all the pills. The raw materials were only spirit grains, and one only needed to extract the essence of the spirit grains and condense it into a pill. Although the fasting pill was simple, the refining process also included most of the techniques of alchemy. This included controlling the fire, extracting the essence of spirit herbs, condensing the pill, etc. The only thing missing was how to fuse the essences of different herbs together. This was also the most difficult part of alchemy. It consumed a lot of spiritual sense, and if it was not handled well, the furnace would explode. Because there was no such difficult part, the raw materials were also cheap. Therefore, most beginner alchemists would start by refining the fasting pill. After familiarizing themselves with the steps of controlling the fire, they would try to refine other pills. With the alchemy experience provided by his clone, Wang Daoyuan saved a lot of time, at least he did not need to learn the basics. The medicinal properties of spirit herbs, the control of the fire during alchemy, and other key points, he knew them by heart. What he lacked was the actual operation. Once he was familiar with it, his alchemy level would advance by leaps and bounds. There was still a gap between knowing the theory and actual operation. After all, the strength of the clone and the main body was quite different, and the clone's experience could not be completely copied. He did not understand this at first, and the first time he tried, he completely copied the clone's experience. When extracting the essence of the spirit grains, he used 30% of his spiritual sense to stimulate the flames, and the spirit grains were directly burned to ashes. At this time, he understood that he could not completely copy the clone's experience. Adjusting the output of his spiritual sense, he slowly tried, and on the fourth try he successfully refined 2 fasting pills. The success rate was only 20%, but it was considered a beginner. With the clone's experience and his own experience, his alchemy level advanced by leaps and bounds. In just 3 days he increased the success rate of the fasting pill to 60%. The fasting pill could only be regarded as a non-mainstream pill, and those who could refine the fasting pill could not be called alchemists. After that, he began to try to refine the spirit returning pill. The spirit returning pill was the simplest of the tier 1 pills. The pill formula only had 3 spirit herbs, and the difficulty of fusing the essences of different spirit herbs was the lowest. He already knew all the techniques to refine the spirit returning pill, and besides fusing the essences of spirit herbs, he also knew the alchemy process by heart. There was no need to prepare at all, and he could start directly. The difficulty of fusing spirit herb essences was indeed very high. Even if Wang Daoyuan's spiritual sense was powerful, he still blew up the furnace twice. However, the pill furnace he used was the Fire Phoenix Purple Sun Furnace, a low-grade second-grade pill furnace, and the materials he used were mid-grade second-grade Purple Sun Copper. When refining a Tier 1 pill, even if it exploded, it would not damage the Tier 2 pill furnace. However, he improved very quickly and only failed 5 times. On his 6th attempt, he successfully refined 3 spirit recovery pills. 5 days later, the success rate of refining the spirit recovery pill had reached 50%. At this point, he could be considered to have officially become a first-tier low-rank alchemist, and his ability to fuse spirit herb essences had reached a certain level. In the next month or so, he had refined many kinds of level 1 pills, and his success rate had exceeded 40%. Elixirs were classified according to the difficulty of refining and the grade of the elixirs used. The spirit gathering pill was one of the simplest tier 1 high-rank pills. As long as one's success rate in refining the spirit gathering pill was higher than 40%, one would be considered a tier 1 high-rank alchemist. However, he did not continue to refine the essence gathering pill. There were only about 2 months until the auction of the Foundation Establishment pill. It was time to return to the clear glass market to plunder spirit herbs at a low price. In this half a year in the oasis, he had earned more than 20,000 spirit stones. This did not include the large amount of spirit herbs he had collected, as well as the remaining spirit herbs and spirit talismans. If the spirit herbs he had plundered were converted to market value, He estimated that his net profit would be more than 40,000 spirit stones. With the spirit pearl space providing materials, refining spirit herbs was simply a business without cost. After Wang Daoyuan packed up, he left the oasis. After leaving the 100 Rivers Lake by boat, he used the cloud mist escape on the water and soon arrived near the Mirror Iron Mountain. He did not go to the Mirror Iron Mountain, but went directly to the Spirit Spring Cave. Standing in front of the cave, he used his divine sense to explore, but he did not find anything. The cave should have activated a concealment array. Perhaps the defensive array was also activated, so he did not dare to rashly use an escape technique to enter. After all, the Spirit Spring Cave had a Tier 2 high rank array, and he could not withstand it. He had refined Qi Yun into a clone and learned from Qi Yun's memories how to control the array without using the Spirit Spring bead. Although he did not cultivate the Tao of array and could not control the entire cave's array, he still had the ability to open the door. He used his divine sense and spirit Qi to explore the door, gathered them in several array patterns, and then activated them at the same time. The door instantly opened. The location of the power gathering could not be the slightest bit off, and the divine sense and spirit Qi at each location could not be wrong. They had to be activated at the same time. Without knowing how to open the door and without the Spirit Spring bead, it was impossible to open the door by accident. When the door of the Spirit Spring Cave opened, a 15-meter-long water dragon flew over. Wang Daoyuan immediately used the cloud mist escape to dodge and shouted, "12th uncle, don't attack. It's me, it's me." This water dragon technique was used by the 12th uncle Wang Shui. So it was you. You opened the Spirit Spring Cave? Wang Shui asked doubtfully. The Spirit Spring bead is in my hands. How did you open the door? Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, besides using the Spirit Spring bead, there is another way to open it, but it requires some understanding of arrays. Wang Shui immediately lost interest and said, you still want to study arrays? Forget it, I'll study how to make wine. Wang Daoyuan walked into the cave and saw that the cave had changed quite a bit. The spirit mulberry and the purple gold grass had grown quite well, but the spirit forbidding silkworm had not broken out of its cocoon. The cave had opened up 5 acres of spirit fields and planted all kinds of spirit herbs that the clan owned. However, each spirit herb only took up a few square feet of the spirit fields. This was completely to leave a backup plan. There were also a few jasper watermelons planted in the spirit fields. These spirit fields were also watered by the jade butterfly spring, so there was no need to worry about the consumption of the soil. There was also a stone room built next to the thatched cottage. He walked over and smelled the smell of wine. It was very similar to the scarlet blood wine, but there were some differences. Wang Daoyuan asked, 12th uncle, what's going on with this wine? The scarlet blood wine's smell is mixed with the fragrance of the jade butterfly orchid. In addition, there is also the smell of blood worry. Blood worry was a commonly used healing pill. Its main function was to stop bleeding, but it also had some effect of healing injuries. Wang Shui smiled and said, you are indeed my nephew. You can even smell this. The scarlet blood wine's main function is to restore spirit Qi. Although it has some effect on healing injuries, it is not as good as the rejuvenation pill. I added the blood worry to it to increase the healing effect. There is also the jade butterfly orchid. Your 7th uncle has researched the medicinal properties of this thing. If you take it directly or refine it into a pill, it can also increase your divine sense cultivation and restore the power of your divine sense. He is still researching the jade butterfly orchid's pill recipe. I also added a little bit when improving the wine recipe. I want the new scarlet blood wine to have the effect of healing and divine sense. Right now I am just experimenting. When I succeed, I will give you the new wine recipe. Chapter 121. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, then I'll wait for your good news. Then he took out 2 jugs of newly brewed red blood wine and 2 beggar's chickens wrapped in lotus leaves. The lotus leaves came from those plants that never bloomed. Wang Daoyuan no longer spoiled them and often plucked a few lotus leaves to make beggar's chicken. Seeing that there was wine and meat, Wang Shui immediately became interested. He grabbed a chicken, tore off a drumstick, took a bite and said, it's really a rare delicacy in the world. Then he grabbed a jug of wine and drank a big mouthful. He said intoxicatedly, if I had such good wine and delicacies every day, I wouldn't exchange it for a golden core. You really know how to enjoy yourself. Not only can you drink, but you're also good at cooking delicacies. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, this chicken is called Jade Bone Phoenix Tail Pheasant, a first-rank middle-grade spiritual bird. I still have a few living ones so the family can raise them. In the future, 12th uncle, it's not impossible for you to eat chicken and drink wine every day. Wang Shui was overjoyed. Really? Why don't we raise a few in the Spirit Spring Cave? Wang Daoyuan glanced at him and said, You don't want the forbidden spirit silkworm? Do you want to smell chicken poop and brew wine all day? Then forget it. The forbidden spirit silkworm and the spiritual wine are more important. Wang Shui said regretfully. Wang Daoyuan came to the Spirit Spring Cave to see the situation and didn't have any business. After eating and drinking with the 12th uncle and Wang Shui, he left. After leaving the Spirit Spring Cave, he used the cloud escape to enter Qingxi village and went ashore. There were still 2 months before the auction of the Foundation Establishment Pill, so there was plenty of time. Since he was passing by and had nothing to do, he naturally had to go home to see his parents. He also wanted to collect a few common seasonings such as pepper, onion, ginger, and garlic, and plant them in the space of the spiritual pearl to cultivate non-ranked spiritual plants. With enough seasonings he could recreate the delicacies of his previous life. As soon as he went ashore, he heard wolf howls coming from Qingxi village. Wang Daoyuan immediately used the sky-peering technique and looked into the village. He saw Dahe and a dozen black cloud wolves besieging a cultivator. This cultivator looked to be in his 60s or 70s. He was at the 7th level of Qi refinement and wore the green Taoist robe of the Liang family. Dahe had improved a lot in the past year, but it was only equivalent to a cultivator at the 2nd level of Qi disciple. 10 black cloud wolves were only equivalent to a cultivator at the 1st level of Qi disciple. If it weren't for the fact that they had the advantage in numbers, they would have been defeated long ago. Dahe and the black cloud wolf both had many wounds on their bodies. This Liang clan cultivator is also a piece of trash. If it were me, I would be able to kill a few tier 1 low-grade spirit beasts in one move. Wang Daoyuan took out an image recording pearl, activated it with his divine sense and threw it on a tree. The image recording orb was a special type of Dharma artifact. Normally its grade was not high. Once it was activated, it could record the current scene. Then he used invisibility and breath concealment and slowly approached. When he was more than 10 feet away from the Liang clan cultivator, he directly used cloud mist escape and appeared in front of the Liang clan cultivator. He kicked him to the ground. Then he took out the black yang sword and pressed it against the Liang clan cultivator's neck, asking, May I ask why Dao Yu of the Liang clan trespassed into my Wang clan's territory? And even injured the spirit beasts of my Wang clan? In the cultivation world, hitting someone else's spirit beast was equivalent to hitting someone else's clan. Of course, if the spirit beast did evil, the clan also had to bear the responsibility. But hitting someone else's spirit beast in their territory could be seen as declaring war on the clan. Of course, the Liang clan cultivator would not admit it. Even if the Liang clan was powerful, they still had to abide by the rules of the Netherworld sect. Attacking other clans for no reason did not cause serious consequences. With Liang Liang's protection, the Liang clan would not suffer too much. However, he would definitely be severely punished. It was also possible that he would be killed directly. He quibbled, This is clearly a demonic beast that was harassing the village. I helped drive it away. Wang Daoyuan called Dahe. Dahe immediately shook its head and wagged its tail as it walked over, rubbing its head against his leg. He sneered, Do you still have anything to say now? Not to mention that this is not a demonic beast. Even if it is, does my Wang clan need your Liang clan to worry about my matters? According to the rules of the Netherworld sect, the subordinate clans of the Netherworld sect have the right to not allow cultivators from other clans to enter their territory. My Wang clan has also announced that Liang clan cultivators are not allowed to enter my Wang clan's territory. I remember that this rule was proposed by your Liang clan's ancestor, right? What, is the Liang clan knowingly breaking the rules, or does the Liang clan not need to abide by the rules of the Netherworld sect? Back then, in order to suppress the Wang, Yang, and Meng clans, the Liang clan proposed this rule and obtained the approval of the higher-ups of the Netherworld sect. The Liang clan also followed this rule and did not allow the Yang clan to use Qingxi's wharf. In these 300 years the Yang clan was disgusted. The Liang clan cultivator knew that he was in the wrong and could not win, so he admitted defeat. I was blind and mistook the Wang clan's spirit beast for a demonic beast. I am willing to compensate for the Wang clan's losses. Please be magnanimous, Dao Yu. Wang Daoyuan thought to himself, Qingxi village is too close to Mirror Iron Mountain. If this matter is blown up, it will easily attract the Liang clan's attention to Mirror Iron Mountain. The matter of the clan's transaction with Green Willow Province will be easily exposed. If I directly capture this person and refine him into a doppelganger, it will be difficult to guarantee that this matter will not be exposed in broad daylight. If the Liang clan comes to ask for him, then there will be great trouble. It is better to reduce the impact. Thus he replied, fellow Taoist, it's pardonable that you were mistaken. However, since you attacked, my Wang clan's spirit beast will not be beaten for nothing. Daoyu, leave behind your storage pouch and magic tools and I can pretend that this did not happen. The Liang clan cultivator felt a wave of heartache. Although the items on him were not all of his wealth, giving them all away would still be a great loss. However, it was useless to feel heartache. He was attacking the Wang clan's spirit beasts in their territory. If the Wang clan did not let him go, he would definitely die. The Liang clan would definitely not pay such a huge price to protect a 7-stage Qi refinement cultivator with no future. He gritted his teeth and threw out his storage pouch and magic longsword. Then he stood up and left dejectedly. Wang Daoyuan opened the storage pouch and took a look. He directly stored it in the space of his spiritual pearl along with the longsword. He really did not care for this trash. The longsword was only a mid-grade level 1 magic tool. There were only a few hundred spirit stones, a few talismans and some pills in the storage pouch. At this moment, Dahe was still rubbing its head against his leg. He pointed at the dozen or so black cloud wolves and asked, Dahe, are these your subordinates? Dahe nodded proudly. Wang Daoyuan cursed inwardly, beasts. The dozen or so black cloud wolves were all female wolves. They had only become demon beasts for less than a year, and they already had a harem. On second thought, this wasn't a big deal. Dahe had worked hard to look after the village for more than 20 years. Why couldn't it enjoy itself? This was also good. When Dahe strengthened the wolf pack, it could better stop the Liang clan from causing trouble and protect the safety of Qingxi village. As long as Dahe's strength could suppress the wolf pack, its position as the Wolf King would be very stable. It would also not be afraid of the wolf pack's retaliation. He had the space of his spiritual pearl. If he cultivated Dahe with all his strength, would there be any other wolf whose cultivation level surpassed his? Dahe ran into its kennel and took out an empty storage pouch. It looked at Wang Daoyuan pitifully. Wang Daoyuan did not know whether to laugh or cry. It knew how to pretend to be pitiful and ask for benefits. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.